Xian Master. Lu Cong bowed. Have you calculated the Xiantian Dao sect's losses in this battle yet? Asked Li Tianxian. Yes. A total of 29 soul transformation experts and 631 Jade Core elders died. Also, 7 people are left with only their Yuan spirits. The Dragon Blood Legion suffered no casualties, but 16 Foundation forging disciples fell, reported Lu Cong. This had been a fierce battle. The difference in numbers between the two sides had been immense. In order to give their talented disciples opportunities, the Jade Core elders had sacrificed themselves. It could be said that without them, there would have been no way Meng Qi, Tang Wana, Gu Yang, and the others could have gone all out slaying the corrupt soul transformation experts. Although they had immense killing power, their defensive power was too low. As soon as they approached a soul transformation expert, there was danger of them being killed instantly. That was why a major reason for their victory was because of these fallen elders. Yu Zifeng had seen so many elders dying one by one, and that was why he hadn't hesitated to use such a destructive move to kill so many soul transformation experts. He had won them precious breathing room. Even before saving Meng Qi in that battle, Yu Zifeng had already activated his secret art, which had allowed him to kill several soul transformation experts, all in one blow. That had caused the corrupt experts' hearts to turn cold and blunt their sharpness. His contributions definitely couldn't be overlooked. The sect protecting pavilion truly made the greatest contributions this time. Li Tianxian sighed. Those elite elders that had died had mostly come from the sect protecting pavilion. But I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that the Dragon Blood Legion's display was so shocking this time. It'll probably shake the entire Central Plains, said Lu Cong worriedly. Such a terrifying legion was something that not only shocked the corrupt path, but even the Xiantian Dao sect itself. They had slaughtered almost 30,000 corrupt Foundation forging disciples without a single one of them dying. This kind of battle record was so stunning that Lu Cong almost couldn't believe it. Although their rank 8 corrupt celestials had been handled by Meng Qi and Tang Wan, there had still been countless powerful geniuses amongst the corrupt path. To use the Blood Moon Devouring Sun formation, the corrupt path had only brought out their elite geniuses. That was why it was so shocking. According to their original plan, the corrupt path was to kill the righteous experts and capture Long Chen. Then they would leave a recording of their powerful formation to stun the righteous path. This was a move the corrupt path used habitually. So even the weakest disciples they had brought had been rank 5 celestials. A third of them had been rank 6, and over 1,000 had been rank 7. As for rank 8 celestials, they had brought 47 of them. Such a terrifying lineup had been annihilated by the Dragon Blood Legion. And yet, most of the Dragon Blood warriors were just rank 5 celestials. According to reason, they should have been heavily suppressed by the heavenly Daos and unable to use their full power. But it was the corrupt army that was annihilated instead. What Lu Cong didn't realize was that Long Chen had long since anticipated a day would come when they would have to fight celestials with higher ranks than them. That was why he had made them go through tribulation together and intentionally provoked the heavenly Daos into unleashing their divine pressure. That was to increase everyone's potential, to make them give birth to the courage that would dare to go against the heavenly Daos. So although heavenly Dao pressure could affect the Dragon Blood Legion's combat power, it wouldn't affect their killing intent. Furthermore, the effect of their greater celestial ranks had been ruined by Gu Yan, a rank 9 celestial. Because he had unleashed such terrifying heavenly Dao pressure, everyone had been suppressed. As a result, all the celestials had been equalized. That kind of situation had actually been unfavorable to the corrupt path. That was because Gu Yan's pressure focused a bit more on a person if their celestial rank was higher. To sum it up, the Dragon Blood Legion's victory this time was a complicated sum of many factors. That was the only reason they had created such a miraculous accomplishment. But even so, with the Dragon Blood Legion's power, any Dragon Blood warrior was a genius that would have difficulty finding a match within the same realm. Such a terrifying group would make countless sects and powers envious and uneasy. That was because they were afraid that once the Dragon Blood Legion grew up, they would threaten them. The righteous path was full of internal fighting. Some of it was obvious and open, while some was kept secret and in the dark. Before this, the Shintian Dao sect had been declining and hadn't been a threat to other sects, so naturally no one had set their gazes on the Shintian Dao sect. But now there was such a terrifying legion growing within them, and that was too conspicuous. If it was just Longchen rising, that would have been one thing. But now there was a group of over 10,000 disciples rising, disciples that had the potential to become powerful enemies. Even the sects with decent relations with the Shintian Dao sect were worried. There's no need to bother with that. If we had continued being so cautious, we'd forever be suppressed by others. Starting today, our Shintian Dao sect is saying goodbye to caution. We're going to start advancing without retreat. Li Tianxin smiled. Having obtained the Shintian Tower's support had filled him with confidence. Don't bother with the matter of the Dragonblood Legion. Properly record our losses. The names of our fallen disciples are to be carved onto the Shintian merit stele. If they have descendants, it's up to the Shintian Dao sect to raise them. If they have no descendants, arrange for their relatives to be given the greatest support. After arranging this, go take a trip to the Martial Heaven Alliance. Give them the recording and tell them the number of corrupt experts we killed this time, said Li Tianxin. We'll be able to get an ocean's worth of resources. Even Lu Tsang was emotional when he thought about how much wealth they would gain. Their gains were just too stunning. The corrupt life star expert and various soul transformation experts captured in the Eastern Sea battle had been equal to 1,000 years' worth of income for the Shintian Dao sect. And this time, they had killed even more. The Martial Heaven Continent's reward system was based on two things: the cultivation bases and the talent of the slain experts. The corrupt path had attacked with a huge army, but when they left, it had just been the dwarf taking away 17 life star experts and a half-dead Gray Yen. The rest had all died. With just one sect's power and the 7 bosses of the heaven-splitting battle sect, they had accomplished such a stunning feat. This victory was something for the history books of the righteous and corrupt battles. The corrupt path had lost a life star expert, over 500 soul transformation experts, and over 30,000 elite foundation forging disciples. According to the Martial Heaven Continent's reward system, Lu Tsang couldn't even imagine a number that could describe this wealth. Just report the numbers on this trip. But don't get too excited yet, or you'll be disappointed. Li Tianxin smiled faintly, but his words were like a bucket of ice water over Lu Tsang's head. What are you talking about? Asked Lu Tsang. This matter isn't so simple. I killed those people from the ancient races and the Pill Tower. That will cause quite a bit of trouble. The Martial Heaven Alliance isn't as pure and united as you imagine. Any group, once they reach a certain level of power, will have to follow a few unwritten rules. The Martial Heaven Alliance is no exception. Getting our reward this time will probably be very difficult. You should prepare yourself, said Li Tianxin calmly. Lu Tsang was silent. He wanted to say something, but he swallowed his words. I know. But as I said, since we've chosen to rise, we can't be afraid of everything. If I hadn't killed them at that time, they wouldn't have been grateful. They'd have probably stabbed us in the back once they were saved. Enduring will only bring more humiliation. It's the typical case of giving an inch only for them to take a foot, and then another foot, until you are forced to the end. So even if you gave me another chance, I'd have still done the same thing, said Li Tianxin. Li Tianxin had already had enough of the Pill Tower and the ancient races. They actually dared to hunt Longchen so openly, completely ignoring the Shintian Dao sect. If he didn't kill them after such an insult, he wouldn't be Li Tianxin. After being bullied to this extent, if they still didn't counterattack, then they really might as well just kill themselves. Other than that, send someone trustworthy to the Huayun sect. Have them announce how Xian Jizi harmed those geniuses. I have over 10 cases with absolute proof here. I'll make that idiot Xian Jizi the target of everyone. Let's see how he attempts to scheme against us now. Li Tianxin handed Lu Tsang a spatial ring. Xian Jizi was currently one of the greatest threats to Longchen, as well as a threat to the Shintian Dao sect. This fellow was a hidden danger that needed to be removed. Li Tianxin had gathered ironclad proof of his deeds, and there was no way Xian Jizi would be able to argue against it. Although it was unlikely he would be executed, at least he could show the world who Xian Jizi was. That way, there wouldn't be as many sects who trusted him. Furthermore, this matter implicated Pill Valley. The Huayan sect would definitely be happy to help. Once no one trusted him, then no matter how he tried to fan the flames, it would be useless. There was no time to capture him now, but once they got past this juncture, it would be time to find that bastard. Just as Li Tianxin was plotting everything, Long Chen returned to Crouching Dragon Mountain. Right now, Crouching Dragon Mountain was calm because all the Dragon Blood warriors had been exhausted by the battle and were in seclusion. Long Chen returned to his room, and Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were already waiting for him. Seeing him walk in, Tang Wan'er immediately grabbed hold of him tightly, her eyes full of worry. "Don't worry, I'm fine." "Oh wait, there is something. The Xian master said I need to enter the bridal room in order to suppress the curse." Long Chen hastily changed what he was saying. "Scoundrel, who do you think would believe you?" rebuked Tang Wan. There was no way she would fall for such a childish lie. She repeatedly beat him on the chest. But his joke made Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er's hearts less worried. This underworld soul ghost curse had truly made their hearts clench. That was because they thought of the Yama King blood curse that had killed Little Snow in the immemorial path. Then we can consider the bridal room later. A kiss should be fine, right? Long Chen was already leaning down, giving Tang Wan'er a deep kiss. "Don't, big sister Meng Qi is right there." Tang Wan'er tried to get away. "Of course a kiss must be done in front of Meng Qi, or it would be like cheating," laughed Long Chen. Despite how bashful Tang Wan'er acted, he didn't let her off without a final kiss on the cheek. Then he turned to Meng Qi, who hadn't said anything this entire time. He also gave her a fierce kiss. Meng Qi's body quivered as she held him tightly around his waist. Her tears streamed down. Meng Qi was a quiet and reserved person, but her feelings for Long Chen ran deep. She had never refused Long Chen. He was her everything. If he could live, she wouldn't ask for anything else. "Sorry about everything." Seeing those tears stream down Meng Qi's peerlessly beautiful face, Long Chen was filled with pain. A simple apology felt completely meaningless. Tang Wan'er's eyes were also red. Her greatest hope was that Long Chen would forever stay by their side. "Today is a happy day. I've brought you both gifts." Long Chen suddenly smiled. Having gathered with everyone again, this should be a happy time. Long Chen took out a translucent crescent moon blade. The blade was over a foot long and looked like crystal. But the curious thing was that it had no hilt. It was just a blade. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and as light as a feather. When Long Chen had released it, it had almost floated into the sky. As soon as it appeared, the temperature in the room dropped. A sharp aura made their scalps turn numb. Most importantly, the space around it was starting to twist. Their hair started to be drawn over to it. "This is a wind attribute king item?" Tang Wan'er was pleasantly surprised to see it. She could sense the wind energy within it that resonated with her own. "A king item? I couldn't bring out such a thing. This is an ancestral item." Long Chen grumbled inside. This was a terrifying ancestral item he had specifically prepared for Tang Wan'er, but it had actually been viewed as a king item. But that was only natural. This ancestral item had truly been terrifying. When he had first released it on Devil Spirit Mountain, it had immediately fled, and when he had tried to subdue it, it had fought back so intensely that Long Chen had furiously smashed it with the pot until it was on its last breaths. Only then did it submit. However, even then, it refused to allow Long Chen to place a slave mark on it. Its character was extremely obstinate. It would rather break than bend. But the crescent moon blade suddenly began to shine. It landed in Tang Wan'er's hands of its own accord. An expression of disbelief appeared on Tang Wan'er's face. It actually accepted me as its master. The blade's item spirit had actually willingly accepted her as its master. The item spirit was extremely intelligent. Its character really is like yours. Long Chen smiled. As expected, a person would have a weapon similar to themselves. The blade transformed into a ray of light that entered Tang Wan'er's head, vanishing. Meng Qi almost jumped, afraid it was harming Tang Wan'er. "Long Chen, you're so evil. You almost killed Moonwind." Tang Wan'er rebuked Long Chen. The crescent moon blade had clearly begun to complain about Long Chen's barbaric violence. Cough, wasn't that just a case of friends not being able to get along without some fighting? Said Long Chen awkwardly. Scoundrel, if you bully Moonwind again, I'll beat you, understood? Tang Wanner raised her fists menacingly. But she also winked at Long Chen. Long Chen immediately understood. Having become the blade's master, she had to stand up for her weapon. Only then could she comfort the aggrieved item spirit. Goddess Wanna, this little one would not dare. Just treat this little one as a fart and release him. Long Chen put on a terrified expression and repeatedly bowed deeply with his arms raised in front of him as he begged for forgiveness. Scoundrel! Tang Wanner turned red. Long Chen's words were too immoral for her to even accept. She beat Long Chen a few times. Perhaps it felt that its new master was truly fierce enough, and seeing her beat the villain Long Chen to the point that he didn't have the slightest ability to resist, the blade's item spirit happily entered Tang Wanner's mind sea and began to nurse its wounds. Long Chen had been ruthless back then, and had almost killed it. Long Chen, where's Big Sister's gift? Said Tang Wanner suddenly. Foolish girl, do you think ancestral items are like cabbage? To be able to obtain one is heaven-defying luck. You having an ancestral item is the same as me having one. The stronger you get, the stronger your big sister gets, said Meng Qi with a sweet smile. Meng Qi's peaceful nature made Long Chen feel even more thankful. He immediately took out a feather dress. Don't worry, everyone will get one. Look, what do you think this is? When the feather dress appeared, Meng Qi and Tang Wanner let out startled cries. They were completely captivated by that feather dress shining with all the colors of the rainbow. The feather dress was indescribably grand. Its feathers came from over 100 different flying beasts. Runes flickered around the dress, making it seem like a goddess's divine clothes. What a beautiful dress! Only Big Sister's beauty can match such a grand dress, exclaimed Tang Wanner. This feather dress was too beautiful. No woman could resist. Wanner, your defenses are also weak. You should be the one to wear this feather dress. I'm a beast tamer, and I have my magical beast to protect myself, said Meng Qi. Hee, Big Sister, there's no need to be courteous with me. You're the only one who's a match for this dress, laughed Tang Wanner. Seeing the two of them fighting like this, Long Chen felt it was a bit funny. He felt like the meticulous etiquette they followed was a good thing, but also a bit nonsensical. He didn't say anything. He just smiled as they argued. In the end, when both sides were too embarrassed to go on, Meng Qi took the rainbow feather dress. The feather dress surprisingly didn't reject Meng Qi at all. It disappeared from her hands and reappeared on her body. When Meng Qi's beauty was combined with the feather dress, Long Chen and Tang Wanner's eyes both shone. Meng Qi truly looked like a goddess now. She was unspeakably grand and noble. Big Sister, you're very beautiful, praised Tang Wanner involuntarily. Meng Qi was already stunningly beautiful. Her beauty could bring down a nation. As a soul cultivator, she possessed a natural grand aura. Now with the feather dress, there was no way to describe her. The feather dress vanished from Meng Qi's body, and she smiled. This kind of gift would be welcomed by any woman. Hee, other than this gift, I have another thing to give you. But this gift is a bit different. A scroll appeared in Long Chen's hands. He slowly opened it, revealing its contents. There were countless beasts depicted on the scroll. Each of them looked so lifelike that it felt like they might jump out of the painting at any moment. Once the scroll was opened, a terrifying pressure was unleashed from it which made Meng Qi and Tang Wanner pale. This scroll's power could easily annihilate them. This is the myriad spirit diagram. It is something I obtained by chance in the Four Nations ancient remnant. Long Chen gave a simple recount of how he had obtained the myriad spirit diagram and his encounter with that mysterious elder. The myriad spirit diagram is the cumulation of that senior's cultivation. He comprehended his Tao by walking the path of beasts. Coincidentally, that senior was also a beast tamer. His true body comprehended the Tao and ascended using his Tao of 10,000 beasts countless years ago. He left behind the myriad spirit diagram as his inheritance for a destined person. Back then, when he said he was waiting for a destined person, I thought he was actually not going to give it to me. But then the senior said that I could find the destined person, and the first person I thought of was you. Long Chen smiled. Hearing that it came from someone who had ascended, Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were completely shocked. After ascending, didn't a person become a god or immortal? Meng Qi, take a look and see if you can comprehend it, said Long Chen. Meng Qi nodded. First, she placed the myriad spirit diagram in the air and respectfully bowed to it repeatedly. She was using the most formal, most solemn etiquette of 3 bows and 9 kowtows. Although she hadn't gained anything from it yet, just the pressure that came from it told her it was definitely a divine item. The inheritance left behind by an ascender was definitely enough to make the entire continent crazy. Now that Meng Qi had obtained this inheritance, it was essentially the same as taking that elder as her master. This etiquette was naturally necessary. Long Chen and Tang Wan'er also bowed once. They treated it as bearing witness to this. When Meng Qi finished her final bow, the myriad spirit diagram suddenly let out a ray of light that enveloped her. Countless runes revolved around her, emitting a divine aura. Meng Qi's face instantly turned pale, causing Long Chen to jump. It's fine. This is the myriad spirit diagram's way of passing on its inheritance. But my cultivation base is too low, so I can't take it all in, said Meng Qi. After saying that, the runes vanished. Meng Qi was still pale, but she was delighted. Long Chen, this myriad spirit diagram is a supreme treasure. Although my spiritual strength is limited and I could only comprehend a portion of its mysteries, it's still enough to benefit me for a lifetime, said Meng Qi. Forming a hand seal, a certain bird on the myriad spirit diagram lit up, startling Long Chen and Tang Wan'er. It's the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. That bird image was of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. But the feathers on it were covered in countless ancient runes that made it look not quite the same as Cloud's mother. Cloud, come out. Cloud suddenly flew out. Long Chen jumped. If Cloud came out, wouldn't this room cease to exist? But he was surprised to see that Cloud was actually only the size of an ordinary sparrow. It hopped onto Meng Qi's shoulder. It had actually learned how to control its size. Go in. This is the most complete inheritance of your cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, said Meng Qi. Cloud flew toward the scroll. Once it got close, it shrank and entered the scroll, merging into the image of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. The myriad spirit diagram contains the most complete inheritances of 10,000 spirit beasts gathered by that senior. Cloud's race is being hunted down, causing their inheritance to no longer be complete. The myriad spirit diagram can make up for that, said Meng Qi with excitement. If Cloud learned all of its inheritance, its combat power would probably rise to a terrifying level. However, her own power was lacking, and there were many parts of the myriad spirit diagram that she was unable to unlock. There were marvelous soul arts and cultivation techniques inside. She had only peered into a very small portion of the inheritance and would need more time to study it. 3 days passed in the Shintian Dao sect before Long Chen gathered all the Dragonblood Legion. It was about time for them to advance to the Jade Core realm. The Dragonblood warriors had all reached the peak of the Foundation Forging realm. People like Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er had long since possessed the qualification to attack the Jade Core realm. But without Long Chen, they hadn't gone through with their advancements. They had been waiting for his return. If they had wanted to advance, at least half the Dragonblood Legion would have advanced to kings. Then the last righteous and corrupt battle wouldn't have been so bitter. They would have definitely suppressed their opponents. But the Jade Core realm involved breaking the immortal platform to condense the divine core. It was an extremely important process with a high chance of failure. It was different from other realms where if you failed an advancement, you could just accumulate resources and energy to try again. You would only get one shot at the Jade Core realm. You needed to burst through it. By destroying the foundation of your immortal platform, you would condense it all into a core. The most difficult part about this was that as you condensed your Jade Core, you would have to undergo the baptism of heavenly tribulation. Without powerful willpower, your odds of succeeding when you were disturbed by heavenly tribulation were low. If you failed at condensing your core and had already destroyed your immortal platform, you would essentially be crippled. You would no longer have any chance of advancing to the Jade Core realm. The reason the Dragonblood warriors had cultivated so quickly was because the Xiantian Dao sect had gone all out raising them. Through the Battle of the Eastern Sea, the Xiantian Dao sect had obtained a huge amount of resources from the Martial Heaven continent, and they had essentially spent all those resources on this generation's disciples, especially the Dragonblood Legion. When it came to the Dragonblood Legion, if they wanted something, the sect would immediately go all out helping them get it. And the Dragonblood Legion truly hadn't disappointed the Xiantian Dao sect. In this righteous and corrupt battle, Li Tianxuan's foresight had once more proven to be invaluable. About 2 days of travel outside the Xiantian Dao sect, Li Tianxian was floating in the air, looking at the Dragonblood Legion gathered on top of a distant mountain. His eyes were full of anticipation. The Dragonblood Legion was only the true Dragonblood Legion when Long Chen was present. When the Dragonblood Legion was complete, just seeing the worship in those disciples' eyes showed how they viewed Long Chen as a godlike existence. That made Li Tianxian feel emotional. If combat power was given a numerical value, if one person's power was 1, then the power of 10 people working together would be 9. The power of 100 people would max out at around 70. The more people in a group, the less they would be able to fully trust each other. In fact, the distraction of being on guard from their allies would cause their power to even drop. The sum of 100 people's individual power was 100, but in terms of how much power they could unleash, 70 was a cap. This number was something deduced from the results of countless large battles. And most of the time, a group's combat power wasn't even able to reach that level. The greater the number of people, the greater the drop in ratio. For over 10,000 people, their true power would be about 5,000. And that would be a group of elites amongst elites. Such an elite cultivation army didn't exist in the righteous path. They only existed in the corrupt path. As for the Dragonblood Legion, not only did they bring out 100% of their power even when in such a huge group, with Long Chen's addition, their power would multiply by even up to 10 times. Right now, Long Chen was no longer just the founder of the Dragonblood Legion, he was the Dragonblood Legion's faith. As long as he was present, anything was possible. This time, when the Dragonblood Legion went out to undergo collective tribulation, Li Tianxian had personally come to act as a protector. The current Dragonblood Legion was too eye-attracting, causing countless powers to be uneasy. When righteous experts fought the corrupt path, they were soft persimmons. But when it came to harming themselves and stabbing each other in the back, the righteous path was truly skilled. Therefore, Li Tianxian had to go all out protecting them. But in truth, Li Tianxian truly didn't have much confidence in being able to protect them any longer. That was because he now noticed that the Dragonblood warriors were no longer rank 5 Celestials. They had all advanced to become rank 6 Celestials at the very least. There were also 1,500 rank 7 Celestials and over 60 rank 8 Celestials. Long Chen had distributed all his high-grade Heavenly Dao fruits to the Dragonblood Legion. So many people had died in this battle. Li Tianxian finally realized what Long Chen's terrifying trump card was. That was because the number of rank 7 Celestials that had died from the corrupt path perfectly matched the number of the new rank 7 Celestials in the Dragonblood Legion. Li Tianxian didn't ask about Long Chen's secrets, nor did he want to know. But when it was so obvious, he could not help but notice even if he didn't want to. He was worried. Long Chen's actions were too obvious this time. Once news of this spread, it would definitely cause huge waves. Pill Valley would definitely try something and most likely on an unprecedented scale. Such a bizarre thing would shake all the Central Plains. Although Li Tianxian did not know of the existence of the Heavenly Dao fruits, he knew Long Chen definitely had some heaven-defying ability to snatch a person's Heavenly Dao seed. Otherwise, there was no way the Dragonblood Legion could advance at such a terrifying rate. Long Chen's actions this time were too obvious for anyone to overlook. But on the other hand, even if he had wanted to conceal it, there was little chance of locking down this kind of news. After all, there were far too many people in the Xiantian Dao sect. Long Chen had simply, directly distributed the Heavenly Dao fruits. Not only did he give them to the Dragon Blood Legion, but even Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, Wang Zhen, Mu Qingxian, and Su Mo had become rank 8 Celestials. Although they weren't members of the Dragon Blood Legion, they had fought alongside each other multiple times. They had long since become people Long Chen could fully trust. However, what he had given them was not the Heavenly Dao fruits, but something he called Heavenly Dao wine. He had crushed the Heavenly Dao fruits and merged it with the wine. It had the same effect. Now standing in front of everyone that was staring at him with fervent gazes, Long Chen felt a grand feeling. Having this group of life and death brothers made this life worth it. Brothers, take your medicinal pills. It's the same old rules. The Heavenly Daos are just a fart, so fully unleash your power, said Long Chen. Yesterday, Long Chen had spent a whole day refining pills with the blazing dragon cauldron. He had given everyone here an exploding blaze foundation breaking pill. This was different from the advancement pills he had refined before. This exploding blaze foundation breaking pill was an 8th tier medicinal pill, but it wasn't used for attacking the barrier. In truth, this pill was pretty much poison. After you consumed this pill, your immortal platform would completely crumble. This was the first step to advancing to the Jade Core realm, and it was an extremely important step. The more complete the immortal platform's destruction, the more energy could be used to condense the divine core, and the stronger it would be. The divine core formed on the foundation of the broken immortal platform. If the immortal platform was not fully destroyed, there would be a large amount of energy left behind in it that wouldn't be absorbed by the divine core. That would be a large flaw. Guoran looked at the pill in his hand and shivered. It was a giant pill, and a top-grade one at that. It was emitting a frightening aura. This giant pill had so much energy violently surging within it that if it hadn't been Long Chen who had given it to them, Guoran would suspect it was a bomb. This thing probably had enough energy to make a foundation forging expert explode. Could it really be eaten? His scalp crawled. Boss, said Guoran hesitantly. He wanted to say that there was no need for him to waste such a precious pill. He didn't walk the normal cultivation path. But in truth, he was just afraid. If you keep wasting time, I'll slap you. Where did so many nonsense words come from? Hurry up and eat it, said Long Chen impatiently. Long Chen understood him far too well. Guoran was the ultimate slacker when it came to cultivation. If he could escape pain, he would. Slipping away was his forte. Everyone's brothers. Sai, I'll help you, said Gu Yan. He took Guoran's pill. Gu Yang, you really are my good brother. Guoran first thought that Gu Yang was consuming it for him, but then, Gu Yang stuffed the pill down Guoran's throat. The other Dragon Blood warriors laughed and also swallowed their somewhat frightening pills. Continuous explosive sounds rang out from everyone's dantians. Their expressions all completely changed and they vomited blood. Don't just stupidly stand there. Work together with the pill's energy to completely turn your immortal platform to bits, called out Long Chen. Following his reminder, they unleashed their auras. They suddenly noticed that even after their immortal platforms shattered, their cultivation bases weren't harmed. Instead, their auras grew stronger. If they didn't unleash their auras at this time, they'd explode. As everyone's aura surged, a powerful pressure soared. Long Chen was actually blown away into the distance by that power. Rumble! Heaven and earth turned dark as tribulation clouds covered the sky. Li Tianxuan's expression changed slightly. Long Chen really has to shake the heavens no matter what he does. I should get further away. Li Tianxian had already been thousands of miles away, but he found that the region the tribulation clouds were covering was too great. If he was pulled inside it, it would be troublesome. It was better to distance himself. A torrent of lightning lit up the dark world. Lightning rain began to pour down, but each raindrop was the size of a room. As it landed amongst them, it exploded, unleashing ripples of lightning that made the Dragon Blood warriors totter. Their expressions changed. This was just the first wave. How was it already so powerful? There's nothing to be surprised about. This is the Jade Core Tribulation. When condensing the divine core, the heavenly tribulation will contain a trace of divine energy. That will be the crux of becoming an immortal or god in the future. That's why it's much stronger than before. Long Chen didn't feel any shock from this level of thunder force. He gave them a simple explanation to calm them down. Since your immortal platforms have already been destroyed, don't waste time. The sooner you go through the tribulation, the sooner we can go back, said Long Chen. Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, Wang Zhen, Mu Qingxian, and Su Mo, the people who had never gone through tribulation like this, all jumped in shock. All right, take a look, boss. Gu Yang laughed and his aura erupted. A powerful aura charged into the clouds. Seeing Gu Yang's actions, Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, and the others all turned pale. How was this going through tribulation? Wasn't it just suicide? As expected, having been provoked by Gu Yang, the tribulation clouds in the sky rumbled, and the might of the heavenly Daos descended. The heavens were enraged. The furious pressure of the heavens made the world seem to solidify. A heavy rock crushed all their hearts. Hua Shiyu and the others had an urge to prostrate themselves to the heavens. In front of the fury of the heavens, they felt themselves to be minute. If they resisted, they would be annihilated by the heavenly Daos. Hua Shiyu and the others were pale as paper and full of terror. This was due to their innate reverence for the heavenly Daos. But they saw that the Dragon Blood Legion's people were all calm. They were all unleashing their auras against the pressure of the heavenly Daos. No wonder they can ignore the pressure of higher-rank celestials. Hua Shiyu and the others finally understood why even the ordinary Dragon Blood warriors had been able to fight rank 6 and even rank 7 celestials. So it was the result of this. No matter how strong the celestial, there was no way their heavenly Dao pressure could compare to the true pressure of the heavenly Daos. This destructive will inside the lightning tribulation was something anyone would cower before. However, Long Chen was leading his people to go against the heavenly tribulation. It was to temper their wills. But while the Dragon Blood warriors had experienced going against the heavenly Daos, Hua Shiyu and the others hadn't. They felt an innate pressure in their souls that made them unable to do so. And yet, since they were undergoing tribulation with the Dragon Blood Legion, they had no choice even if they didn't dare. They could only force their way through. Bolts of lightning began to smash down like huge mountains. The lightning would explode when it struck the land, and there were already some people who were coughing up blood. The Jade Core tribulation was powerful even without any other factors. But now, Gu Yang, the one with the strongest aura here, had taken the initiative to provoke the heavens' fury. The pressure was at least 10 times greater. Even though people were injured, there were still the healing experts present. As wood cultivators, lightning was their bane. Their wood energy was life energy, while this lightning contained destructive energy. They were the ones to be injured first. Basically, all the healing experts were women. Although they all coughed up blood, not one of them had a worried expression. They still stood tall. After experiencing the last tribulation, they had realized that undergoing tribulation in this manner brought with it countless benefits. The destructive energy in the tribulation was something that could stimulate their wood energy and make it pure. They now knew that each extra breath that they could endure during this lightning tribulation was another bit stronger they got. This was a rare opportunity. Under the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, all the immortal platforms in their dantians completely shattered and rapidly formed a golden sphere. That was the mark of a Jade Core expert, the Divine Core. Those small little spheres already possessed a grand and majestic energy. As the sphere grew, each of their auras grew stronger. Don't be in a rush to absorb the spiritual chi in the air. Focus on using the thunder force to temper your divine cores. Completely destroy any vestiges of your immortal platform's runes. That's the only way for you to advance perfectly, reminded Long Chen. When advancing to the Foundation Forging realm, many people were unable to advance perfectly. But the flaws left behind in the Foundation Forging realm could be made up for when advancing to the Jade Core realm. Long Chen was paying close attention to the changes in their auras and silently learning from them. This was something he would also have to undergo. At this time, Lei Long didn't even wait for Long Chen's call. It directly flew out and began to greedily absorb the thunder force around Long Chen. Long Chen told it that it could absorb the energy as it wished as long as it didn't disturb the others from their tribulations. Lei Long urgently needed to increase its power. The difference between it and Huo Long was getting too big. After an incense stick's worth of time, once everyone had gotten used to this level, Gu Yang once more increased his aura, causing the tribulation's power to increase again. This time, the healing experts were truly at their limit. But they were also unyielding, and even under the violent attacks of the lightning, despite the blood pouring from their mouths, they bitterly endured. Even Long Chen felt some heartache at seeing them push themselves like this. As female wood cultivators, the pain they had to undergo during this tribulation was over 10 times the others. If you can't handle it, don't push yourself. Come over here, called out Long Chen. Boss, we can still handle it. Just give us a bit more time. These stubborn women refused to admit defeat. They held on as if their lives depended on it. Hua Xiyu, Zhao Zian, and the others were all full of admiration for them. They were wood cultivators who possessed weak physical bodies. Even Mu Qingxian had long since felt like she had reached her limit, but seeing her junior apprentice sisters still obstinately holding on, she clenched her teeth and pushed through it. Just seeing her like that distressed Su Mo, but he wasn't able to help. In the end, Mu Qingxian wasn't able to endure any longer. The Thunder Force had already invaded her meridians, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood. The next thing the Thunder Force would do was cause her physical body to explode. That made Su Mo's expression change. Long Chen waved a hand, and Mu Qingxian flew over to his side. With Lei Long devouring the Thunder Force around him, this was an absolute safe zone. Senior Apprentice Sister Qingxian, you should adjust your condition and stabilize your realm. You've reached your limit, said Long Chen. Mu Qingxian nodded palely. She knew she had truly reached her limit. Any more and she'd have exploded. The only thing that made her feel a bit unwilling was that she was the first to drop out. The Dragonblood warriors have already experienced the baptism of heavenly tribulation before, so they now possess some resistance to it. But it's your first time, so being able to reach this point is already very amazing, comforted Long Chen as if reading her thoughts. After all, she was a heavenly genius from the previous generation. This kind of defeat was a bit unacceptable to her. Being exceeded by her junior apprentice sisters was especially painful. But Long Chen's explanation did comfort her. Gratefully nodding to him, she sat down and closed her eyes. Her divine core had already formed. After leaving the lightning tribulation, the divine core would solidify. Right now, she needed to consolidate her divine core. The healing experts lasted 2 hours after Mu Qingxian left. Finally, they were no longer able to hold on and came over to Long Chen's side. They closed their eyes and began to adjust their conditions. Long Chen couldn't help but nod inside. These ladies truly possessed powerful willpower. Even after their divine cores had reached a flawless point, they had continued for an incense stick's worth of time. That had greatly increased the purity of their wood energy. They had done this for the Dragonblood Legion. The purer their wood energy, the more effective their healing would be. Long Chen was emotional inside. Each brother and sister of the Dragonblood Legion treated each other sincerely and openly. To be able to have such sisters by his side, his life had not been in vain. Once the healing experts had left, Long Chen announced, "Now your divine cores are essentially flawless." Hua Xiyu, Zhao Zian, and the others sighed with relief, thinking it was over. But Long Chen's following words almost made their souls flee in terror. "So we can now start the real tribulation. Gu Yang, start going all out." Why isn't Guoran crying? Long Chen couldn't help being startled. How was that little fellow so quiet this time? Reporting to boss, Big Brother Guoran has already fainted and can't be woken, announced a Dragonblood warrior. He pointed to the ground where Guoran lay. White froth came from his mouth, and there was no way to wake him. Good, then it'll be quieter. Continue. Long Chen nodded. Gu Yang took a deep breath. All of a sudden, the runes around him exploded, and a huge chi pillar soared into the sky. The tribulation clouds quivered. Suddenly, the land rocked. Hua Xiyu and the others were horrified. It was like the tribulation had been slapped in the face, and was now unleashing its true fury. A terrifying pressure filled the world. Do they really want to die? Wang Zhen's face was pale, and Su Mo's hair stood on end. He felt like he was already at his limit, but Long Chen refused to let them off. Suddenly, a sea of lightning fell from the sky, covering everything within 10,000 miles. Lightning beasts filled the sea and attacked them. Brothers kill. What made Wang Zhen and Su Mo feel like they were going insane was that the Dragonblood warriors' eyes actually reddened, and they charged at those lightning beasts with overflowing battle intent. These children are insane. The distant Li Tianxian bitterly smiled. Even after living for so many years, he had never seen such an insane group before. Hua Shiyu, Zian, Wang Zhen, senior apprentice brother Mo, this is a rare tempering opportunity. This is the only way to train resisting the pressure of higher-rank celestials, said Meng Qi. Her runes revolved around her, but she didn't attack the lightning beasts. As a soul cultivator, she didn't face her enemies head-on. Heavenly Dao pressure wasn't a great threat to her. So she didn't need to attack these beasts. All she needed to do was use this thunder force to temper her spiritual strength. With Meng Qi's reminder, Hua Shiyu and the others summoned the courage to attack the lightning beasts. Before this, they had only been defending against the tribulation and just waiting for the lightning to stop. They had never dared to actually attack the tribulation. The Dragonblood Legion's method for undergoing tribulation completely toppled their expectations. More and more lightning beasts appeared, but the lightning clouds in the sky grew sparser as well. Long Chen suddenly flew into the air and punched the clouds. But it was ineffective. The lightning tribulation didn't get angry because of him. His current realm was unable to provoke this tribulation. It seemed only those in the Jade Core realm could affect this Jade Core tribulation. It ignored him with his foundation forging realm. Long Chen helplessly sent Lei Long to devour the thunder force on the edge. After 2 hours, the tribulation began to fade. Long Chen comforted Lei Long, "Don't be sad. You might not be full this time, but you'll definitely have more than enough to eat when I go through my tribulation." This thunder force hadn't allowed Lei Long to advance much. Long Chen hadn't let Lei Long absorb too much thunder force because he was worried about affecting everyone's tribulation. As a result, Lei Long wasn't even half full. After the tribulation, everyone's auras were like awakened lions. Their powerful auras even gave Long Chen a sense of pressure. Although they had just advanced to the Jade Core realm, their auras were extremely strong. They were like sharp blades that had been unsheathed and were unleashing their light. "Let's go back." Li Tianxian took out the reincarnation mirror and brought them back to the Shintian Dao sect. Starting today, a legion that would cause the world to shake truly began to rise. When they returned to the Shintian Dao sect, the Dragonblood warriors entered seclusion to consolidate their cultivation bases. Having just advanced to the Jade Core realm, their power had grown explosively. Compared to when they had been at the Foundation Forging realm, their spiritual yuan had grown by over 10 times in terms of both quantity and quality. They needed to get used to their new power. Everyone in the Dragonblood Legion had advanced to the Jade Core realm, and it was a perfect advancement. Even Li Tianxian felt emotional to see this. These Dragonblood warriors were all elites amongst elites. Not only were they brave warriors who would fight 1 against 100, but they were even monsters who could fight across realms. With such a terrifying group of disciples, there was no point in worrying over whether the Shintian Dao sect could return to its former glory. It would probably surpass any point in its history to reach an unprecedented level. However, the Dragonblood Legion was too conspicuous now. Countless people were envious of them, and most likely, the Shintian Dao sect had become a huge target for many people. But the only thing that didn't draw envy was mediocrity. As long as you stood at a high level, there would definitely be people envious of you that hoped for your downfall. Dirty tricks, scheming, trying to crowd you out, these things were unavoidable. This was the cultivation world. The struggle was endless. If you weren't prepared for such a thing, then you should simply never think of rising. Whether it was a single genius or a whole sect, if they wanted to rise, they would have to face countless enemies. The history of a powerful sect's rising had to be bloody. They rose by climbing the mountain of bones of their enemies. Geniuses were the same. One of the laws of the heavenly Taos was that everyone was in competition. Life was a survival of the fittest. To not climb over other people's corpses was to allow others to climb over your corpse. The path of cultivation was one with no turning back. After returning to the Shintian Dao sect and making sure everyone was set, the only one with nothing to do was Long Chen. He was unable to use his spiritual yuan to cultivate. As soon as he tried, the curse would reactivate. Although the curse wasn't able to threaten his life, it stuck to him like cancer. It was incredibly irritating, and there was no way for him to fight. However, he did find that while he couldn't do anything else, he would be able to circulate his flame energy. The curse wouldn't reactivate as long as he only used his flame energy. His guess was that it was due to the Nirvana scripture. His flame energy wasn't affected by the curse. Otherwise, there would have been no way for him to refine pills for everyone. After everyone went through the tribulation, Long Chen noticed that there was something strange with Wild. Wild was constantly yawning, and his focus was gone. Sometimes Long Chen would be talking to him and he would just start napping. When Long Chen asked Li Tianxian what was going on, Li Tianxian said that Wild was very likely undergoing some kind of metamorphosis. That made Long Chen jump. Wild wasn't a magical beast. How could he go through a metamorphosis? Li Tianxian said that the true barbarian race only existed in legends. Perhaps they had existed, but they had disappeared from this world. The barbarian race of legends used to eat anything with flesh. Even dragons were eaten by them. Their bodies were similar to magical beasts. They cultivated neither spiritual yuan, true qi, nor the Tao. They were an oddity of the entire world. When their physical strength reached a certain level, their bodies would undergo a metamorphosis. But when undergoing this metamorphosis, they would be like hibernating magical beasts. They would enter a long slumber. Once their metamorphosis was complete, they would automatically wake, and their combat power would have increased massively. However, Li Tianxian didn't know what kind of changes would happen. All of this was from the scanty sentences about the barbarian race he had read in ancient texts. No one could say whether it was true or not. But as expected, in just 2 days, Wild completely collapsed and entered a deep sleep. He couldn't be woken no matter what. At the same time, the pores on his face and hands began to have slim threads grow out of them. More and more of them appeared until they completely enveloped him in a large cocoon. It seems the legends are true. The barbarian race was exceptionally domineering back in the immortal era. But how could someone from the barbarian race appear now? Didn't they go extinct a long time ago? Wondered Li Tianxian. Long Chen had told him about how he had found Wild on the streets in the Phoenix Cry Empire. Feeling him to be pitiable but an honest and sincere person, he had kept him by his side. But now that he looked back on that, Wild's origins were too mysterious. The barbarian race was clearly extinct, so where had Wild come from? Who were his parents? Wild didn't recall his parents. He had been raised in a little rural village by villagers. Then an epidemic had struck the village and they had all died. Only he had survived. It was like a portion of Wild's memories were missing. His memories started at the age of 4 or 5, and he didn't remember anything before that. Once Wild comes out of his cocoon, he'll probably be very terrifying, sighed Li Tianxian. It seemed a great era had truly descended. Even the legendary barbarian race had appeared. This was an era of all the powers of the world. Li Tianxian felt like he had suddenly grown older. Perhaps the future of this era would become the land of these monsters. Long Chen carried the cocoon that was Wild into a private room of the Shintian Tower. There was a stone bed in this room, and Yu Zifeng was lying on it, his hands holding his sword. Shen Master, Zifeng. Long Chen worriedly looked at the lifeless Yu Zifeng. The current Yu Zifeng was essentially an empty husk. He didn't have the slightest sign of life. He is a genius of the sword Tao. He placed his whole heart, mind, and soul into his sword during that battle. However, he hasn't reached that level of power yet. He was able to use that move, but he's not able to do the opposite. Now, his essence is locked within his sword. As for whether he will be able to bring his soul back into his body, it's completely up to him, said Li Tianxian. Back then, Li Tianxian had been completely stunned by Yu Zifeng's powerful sword arts. Yu Zifeng's killing power had already surpassed the control of heaven and earth. That meant his comprehension of the sword Dao had reached an extremely high realm. But although his realm had reached the level that he was able to use such a terrifying move, his actual power had not reached that level. After placing his soul within his sword, he had managed to bring his power to his peak, and with a single attack, he had killed over 10 soul transformation experts. But being unable to retrieve his soul from his sword, his body had become empty. No one could help him. The only one who could help him was himself. Long Chen placed Wild on another bed. Through Li Tianxuan's explanation, he no longer felt so much worry for Yu Zifeng. He understood Yu Zifeng well. Although he rarely spoke, his willpower was definitely at the apex of the Dragon Blood Legion. Otherwise, there was no way for him to be so outstanding amongst all sword cultivators. The only thing he felt regretful over was that Yu Zifeng hadn't undergone tribulation with everyone. He didn't know if this would leave behind any flaws. But thinking about all this had no meaning now. After making sure the two of them would be safe here, Long Chen was called over by Li Tianxian to his personal room. The two of them sat facing each other. Li Tianxian asked, "For you to raise everyone's power so openly, I presume you have some trump card to shut their mouths?" Li Tianxian felt like Long Chen wasn't so impetuous. According to reason, he should have raised everyone's power in secret. Although it would be noticed sooner or later, stalling for just one day was a good thing. But he had done it so openly and brazenly. Furthermore, the Dragon Blood Legion hadn't hidden the marks of their tribulation. All of the Xiantian Dao sect knew that the Dragon Blood Legion's celestial ranks had increased once more. With Li Tianxuan's understanding of Long Chen, he was sure Long Chen had done that intentionally. So he wanted to know the whole story so he could prepare as well. This paper isn't able to cover up a fire. Pill Valley has had its gaze on me for a long time now. No matter how carefully I act, they'll still find ways to find trouble for me. Compared to the corrupt path, Pill Valley is far more shameless. They'll just make a random excuse and start making things hard for me. They're the most hateful. So this time, I also want you to spread the news openly. Let's blow this matter up as big as possible and slap Pill Valley in the face, said Long Chen. Pill Valley's people had truly been too shameless. They were despicable and felt no guilt with harming the innocent. He was fed up with them. Long Chen, you should think through this. The second volume of the Nirvana scripture is in Pill Valley's hands, reminded Li Tianxian. That's fine. Once I slap them in the face, I'll go learn it. They're two separate matters. Otherwise, if I learned their Nirvana scripture and then slapped them, I'd feel bad. So it's best to first slap them, said Long Chen indifferently. Li Tianxian was speechless. What kind of logic was this? Was this supposed to mean that Long Chen wouldn't feel bad learning their art after slapping them? From your tone, you already have a way to handle this? Asked Li Tianxian. Yes, it shouldn't be a problem. After all, I've had past dealings with Pill Valley. I'm very familiar with their patterns, said Long Chen. He took out a badge from Pill Valley. This was the first place reward he had obtained in the Pill Towers competition back in the Eastern Wasteland. Now it was finally time to use it. Li Tianxian nodded. Long Chen's intelligence wasn't inferior to his. As long as his temper didn't get the better of him, he wouldn't lose out. Then since you're so confident, I'll leave it to you. I guess the Xiantian Dao sect is about to become very lively. You'll be in charge of slapping their faces, and I'll be in charge of cowing them with power. We'll split the work. Li Tianxian smiled. Shen Master, can I ask how much power the Xiantian Dao sect has? Ah, little fellow, you don't need to worry about that. You can go as far as you want. The foundation of the Xiantian Dao sect is far greater than you imagine. Although the Pill Tower is strong, my Xiantian Dao sect isn't so easy to bully. When it comes to such a situation, whoever has more misgivings will suffer more. So since I'm fine with leaving this matter to you, you should know how much confidence I have. It just so happens I can use this chance to properly give a display to those fellows. It can count as my oath to the Central Plains that the Xiantian Dao sect is rising. Anyone who's not afraid of dying can come and try to stop us. Laughed Li Tianxian grandly. Ah, good. If that's the case, then I'm at ease. I'll properly slap those idiots' faces this time. Long Chen was delighted. With what Li Tianxian said, Long Chen's confidence rose. He just happened to be an expert in slapping faces. It had been over 10 days since the battle at Devil Spirit Mountain. Countless experts were paying close attention to this matter as they made all kinds of guesses as to who had done this. But on this day, an explosive piece of news spread. The main character behind this matter had been the Xiantian Dao sect that had declined to the point that people had almost forgotten about it. When they heard this news, people couldn't believe it. The Xiantian Dao sect had already declined. How could it possess such power? Although they hadn't seen the battle personally, just the aftermath and the remnant aura told them that it had been a chaotic battle of over 10,000 people. Just where had the Xiantian Dao sect found so many experts? Just as people were doubting this news, a photographic jade began to circulate through the righteous path. When they saw the scenes of that battle, everyone's jaws dropped. The recording contained various parts of the battle. There was the Dragon Blood Legion slaughtering the Corrupt Path's Foundation, forging disciples like predators hunting prey. Meng Qi, Tang Wan, Wild, and the other heavenly geniuses had even stepped foot on the soul transformation battlefield with a group of kings. They had slain consecutive soul transformation experts. Yu Zifeng's attacks had been exceptionally stunning. Those powerful soul transformation experts had been unable to receive a single blow from him. And then there was Long Chen fighting a rank 9 celestial in the air. That was a clash of peak geniuses that shook them all. Just witnessing this recording caused everyone's hearts to pound. The twists and turns of the battle had made them sweat for the Xiantian Dao sect. But in the end, the Xiantian Dao sect had still managed to win. When they saw Long Chen being cursed by Gui Yan's underworld soul blood curse, they all felt pity for him. The underworld soul blood curse was something all the senior cultivators of the righteous path knew of. It was a curse of definite death. There was no way to resolve it. Huge waves immediately began to soar. The Xiantian Dao sect's power shook them all. Just how had a declined sect managed to raise a terrifying group of disciples like the Dragon Blood Legion? It had to be known that just raising one or two geniuses on that level would require a sect to spend a huge amount of effort and resources. But the Xiantian Dao sect had managed to raise a huge group of them without anyone knowing. At the same time as they were shocked, their guards were also raised. The Dragon Blood Legion was already so terrifying now. How much more frightening would they be once they advanced to the Jade Core realm or even the Soul Transformation realm? With their talent and power, fighting across realms was as easy as eating to them. The people all felt a chill. Not long after this news, another bit of information spread. Right before that battle, the Shen master of the Xiantian Dao sect had used the reincarnation mirror to kill Pill Valley's expert, Dan Xing, as well as a group of ancient race experts. This news was equally shocking. Just what was the Xiantian Dao sect planning? They actually dared to offend Pill Valley and the ancient races. Were they mad? Then a third piece of news followed. Long Chen was a variant Heaven Caesar. This news said that Long Chen was definitely a Heaven Caesar, but he was different from the Heaven Caesars that had appeared in history. He bestowed the power he stole from others to the people by his side. The slain celestials had their heavenly Dao seeds extracted by Long Chen to be given to his people. That was why the Dragon Blood Legion existed. This news even contained information of Long Chen's growth and his experiences in the Eastern Wasteland. They had investigated all of it. Originally, they had only been a group of over 300 people who had been nothing more than ordinary cultivators. Now those people had advanced to become rank 5 celestials. This news was absolutely stunning. This was a heaven-defying ability that terrified countless people. Long Chen became an existence that all those sects feared, as this kind of ability naturally made people uneasy. Many of them thanked their luck that Long Chen had been cursed by the underworld's soul blood curse. He was definitely doomed to die, so they were comforted. And yet, before they could even relax, another piece of explosive news spread. Long Chen hadn't died. He was still alive and well, while the Dragon Blood Legion had all advanced to the Jade Core realm. Furthermore, their celestial ranks had advanced once more. This news shook the entire righteous path. Just the Dragonblood Legion of rank 5 Foundation Forging Celestials had been terrifying enough. Now they had become rank 6, rank 7, and even rank 8 Celestials. Were they trying to go against the heavens? Now the sects were no longer able to just continue watching. Those sects that had once suppressed the Shintian Dao sect were especially uneasy. After declining, the Shintian Dao sect had been suppressed and humiliated countless times. Countless sects had hit them while they had been down. There was a good expression. It was hard to send coal in the snow, but easy to throw rocks at someone who fell down a well. Once a sect declined, even the sects that had had good relations with them would stab them in the back, let alone the sects that had enmity with them. The Shintian Dao sect's forceful rise caused countless people to feel uneasy. At this time, Pill Valley and the ancient races announced that they would go to the Shintian Dao sect to get an accounting for this matter in 3 days. Countless people added in their own opinions, condemning the Shintian Dao sect as criminals that needed to be put down. Countless sects expressed their support for this. One reason was to suck up to Pill Valley, while another reason was their selfishness. They refused to allow the Shintian Dao sect to rise. These sects had past relationships with the Shintian Dao sect or simply hadn't been too friendly with them in the past few years. They were afraid of the Shintian Dao sect's rise, so they didn't hesitate to join the army condemning them. You idiots, ignoring whether or not he really is a heaven Caesar, he has killed countless corrupt experts from the eastern wasteland to the central plains. Just how much merit has he made to the righteous path? So what if he's a heaven Caesar? Isn't he a disciple of the righteous path? You're just doing this because you're jealous. It's despicable. There were always some voices that spoke out against this injustice, but they were drowned out by countless other voices. Long Chen is a crazy homicidal devil. Who knows whether or not he'll kill righteous disciples to raise his power? How do you know he only killed corrupt experts to raise the Dragonblood Legion? Each year, countless geniuses of the righteous path die. It's very likely that many were killed secretly by Long Chen. We can't leave such a scourge. Exactly, he's a future disaster for the righteous path. The stronger he gets, the more dangerous he becomes. We have to nip this in the bud right now, or it'll affect the unity of the righteous path. The condemnation of Long Chen filled heaven and earth. Long Chen had been described as an irredeemable fiend. Apparently, he was only in the righteous path as a cover-up. Once he was stronger, he would cause a calamity for them, so he had to be gotten rid of now. There were many sharp people in the righteous path who saw through the truth, but the absolute majority chose to wisely look after themselves. Only a small portion had some hot blood left and spoke up for Long Chen. But that portion was pitifully small. It was impossible to hear their voices in this world. And the majority of those people were youngsters without much status behind their words. No one bothered with them. In fact, others thought them to be fools and scoffed at them. But in any case, there was definitely a huge storm brewing. Not only did people feel terrified of Long Chen, but there was even a mysterious hand controlling public opinion behind the scenes. Someone was adding fuel to the fire. Any old foxes could tell that it was Pill Valley. It seemed that Pill Valley was truly enraged this time and was preparing to use the Shintian Dao sect to show the cultivation world their power. By making the Shintian Dao sect the public enemy of the righteous path, Pill Valley would have an excuse to target them. Many people could already smell the scent of blood coming. A calamity was coming for the Shintian Dao sect, and it was very likely that it would forever disappear after this storm. Within the Central Plains, if Pill Valley wanted to target a sect, only a few sects could stand up to them. Now that Pill Valley was raising its blade at an ancient sect like the Shintian Dao sect, countless experts were watching in the dark. Experts from every large sect began to approach the Shintian Dao sect. Whether it was sucking up or just watching the fun, they wanted to see what the Shintian Dao sect would do. Just how would a sect whose inheritance stretched back countless years act in the face of its death? A surge of experts gathered around the Shintian Dao sect. The wind was raging right before the storm arrived. As for within the Shintian Dao sect, the Dragonblood warriors all began to exit their seclusion one by one. There was a sharp light in their eyes. Becoming kings made them feel reborn. Long Chen spent these days leisurely. He distributed the ancestral items he had obtained in Devil's Spirit Mountain. Gu Yang almost fainted from joy when he received an ancestral item spear. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan were given 2 truncheons. Now that they had reached the Jade Core realm, they should be able to use their energy to activate ancestral items. Although it would just be a bit of an ancestral item's full power, that was already terrifying enough. There had originally been 8 ancestral items to distribute, but Long Chen had detonated 2 of them. However, now Wild and Yu Zifeng didn't need weapons. So the sword he had been planning to give to Yu Zifeng was instead given to Guoran. That way, all the captain-class figures in the Dragonblood Legion would have an ancestral item. Guoran said that this sword was Yu Zifeng's, but he would temporarily look after it. He could study it, because he was in the midst of studying how to forge ancestral items. Last time, his huge crossbow had been destroyed from a single attack by Gui Yen. One reason was because that attack had also contained Tang Wanner's power, which gave it extra destructive power, but another reason was because his forging technique was still too lacking. When he had launched that first arrow, it had caused an accidental backlash that had destroyed a portion of the crossbow's runes. Otherwise, it wouldn't have exploded. After distributing the weapons, Long Chen also distributed the medicinal wine he had obtained from the Wine God Palace. The wine was perfect for consolidating their cultivation bases. There was also another jug of wine that he gave to Li Tianxian. That was the wine personally made by the high priest. If anyone below the Life-Star realm drank it, it would be an absolute waste. The next 2 days, Long Chen drank and made merry with everyone. They were in the midst of drinking and eating when a cold shout resounded throughout the Xintian Dao sect. I am Pill Valley's law enforcer, Zhuo Tianxiang. I demand the Xintian Dao sect's sect master to come out and face me. That cold cry rumbled through the land, and sharp pain twinged in people's ears. This shout clearly contained heavenly Dao energy. This cry spread to every corner of the Xintian Dao sect. All the disciples' hearts shook. Whoever it was, the owner of the voice actually directly demanded the sect master to come and greet them. Furthermore, hearing that it was a law enforcer from Pill Valley, they knew that Pill Valley had sent a bigwig. Zhuo Tianxiang? What a nauseating name. Does he not know I'm in the midst of eating? Cursed Guoran disgustedly. He had obviously misheard. Our sect master is busy and has no time to greet you. You can come up on your own, or you can scram, shouted Long Chen lazily. Finishing his wine, he said, "Let's go. Today's going to be lively." Countless people gathered in the Xintian Plaza. Long Chen was seated at a central position, the place where Li Tianxian had one Saturday. "Boss, this spot's really good. We can actually look down on everything." Guoran stood behind Long Chen. From here, it was possible to see everything within the Xintian Plaza. It was definitely a refreshing view. Today, Guoran and the others were profiting from Long Chen to stand here. It had to be known that this place was reserved for Hall Master-level experts, and it had to be ones with especially high prestige. Long Chen waited here for whoever it was that had arrived to come. Did they really expect he would go down to greet them? They weren't worth so much. What brat dares to spout such big words? Another person shouted from below the Xintian Dao sect's mountains, but this person was not Zhuo Tianxiang. I am Long Chen. Stop wasting time helping a dog crap. If you want to come, then come. If you don't, then scram. After giving you face, are you not going to give me this face? Shouted Long Chen rudely. Of course he was rude. The Xintian Dao sect had its own lines of sight, and on his way here, he had long since gotten a view of these aggressive fellows. Li Tianxian, is this how your Xintian Dao sect treats guests? Zhuo Tianxiang's voice rang out once more. His voice was very cold and angry. As Pill Valley's law enforcer, he didn't represent a pill tower, but the true Pill Valley. That was a supreme existence. Anywhere he went, others would flock to him. But now that he arrived at the Xintian Dao sect, no one came to greet him. There are 2 types of guests. One is a precious guest that naturally must be treated well. We'd even go meet them 1,000 miles away just to express our sincerity. But the other type of guest is a crap guest. They're basically dogs in human clothing, and they'll bite others who approach them. For such a guest, let alone our sect master, we won't even send a single disciple to greet them. Being bitten by a dog isn't good, replied Long Chen indifferently. His reply was as sharp as a blade. Zhuo Tianxiang had no way to reply because Pill Valley had truly come to suppress the Xian Tiandao sect. If Li Tianxian came out to greet him, it would be expressing his own weakness. That was why Li Tianxian had left this matter to Long Chen. With his understanding of Long Chen, he knew Long Chen was much more proficient at greeting such guests. And as expected, just by opening his mouth 3 times, they were infuriated. Li Tianxian truly had to admire Long Chen for this ability. Even dead people could be angered back to life by Long Chen, and then with another word, they would choke to death. Boom. Suddenly, the Xian Tiandao sect's formation quivered. An expert had actually punched the Xian Tiandao sect's mountain gate. It was obviously a display of power. But that Life Star expert had only just destroyed the gate when a golden light shot out. In front of countless people's shocked gazes, that Life Star expert turned to dust. It happened so suddenly that none of them could react. That Life Star expert hadn't even sensed the danger before dying. They were all appalled. They had never expected the Xian Tiandao sect to be so tough. Were they planning on fighting to the end? They didn't want to discuss this at all. Those who harm a single grass of my Xian Tiandao sect will be annihilated without exception. Long Chen's voice once more rang out, this time domineering and merciless. Long Chen's mouth curled into a cold smile. Although he couldn't see what was happening, he could guess what had happened. Did they truly think the Xian Tiandao sect was a fangless old tiger? Today, he'd teach them just how sharp their teeth were. Li Tianxian had used the sect's grand formation to kill that Life Star expert. This attack expressed his standpoint. It also showed Long Chen his determination. You're looking to die. Someone roared furiously from below the mountain, infuriated by Long Chen's arrogance. With dogs hit like you present, is there any need to look? Let me say it again, either come up or scram. Of course, if you want to test my Xian Tiandao sect's determination, that's fine too. Go ahead and do your best to damage the sect. We will warmly welcome you, said Long Chen indifferently. This sharp exchange was already a fight. There was no need for pleasantries, nor was there any need for mercy. That would just be foolishness. Only by displaying your peerless methods and powerful attitude would you be able to obtain more bargaining chips when negotiating. Otherwise, you would already be losing before talks even began. Then let me see just what kind of nest the Xian Tiandao sect is. Zhuo Tianxiang's voice rang out. Very quickly, many experts arrived in the Xian Tian Plaza. Long Chen was a bit surprised to see just how powerful Pill Valley was. They had actually brought over 1,000 Life Star experts. These Life Star experts represented over 1,000 sections. This kind of display was truly awe-inspiring. Now that they came, Long Chen saw that the leader was a middle-aged man who appeared to be in his 40s. His robes were a fiery red. He wore a violet gold crown and had a golden band as a belt. There was an image of a medicinal cauldron on the front of his robes. On that cauldron was Pill Valley's specific mark. He also had dark gold runes embroidered on his sleeves. That was a symbol of his status. Long Chen had seen that kind of symbol before, but he didn't know what it meant. This overbearing middle-aged man was Pill Valley's law enforcer, Zhuo Tianxiang. Everyone he had brought had reached the Life Star realm. They were all existences capable of being masters of their own sections. Each of them represented a sect. The majority of these people had come to suck up to Pill Valley, and another portion had come due to their past relationships with the Xian Tiandao sect. The remaining portion had come as extras. To put it more frankly, they had come to watch. After all, such a huge event hadn't occurred in the Central Plains in a long time. Zhuo Tianxiang stared daggers at Long Chen, who sat at the highest position of the Xian Tian Plaza. What are you looking at? After seeing my boss, shouldn't you kowtow? My boss won't always bless you with such a chance, said Guoran coldly. Long Chen almost snorted. Tang Wan'er couldn't help but turn away and laugh, while Meng Qi shook her head. There was really no saving this little fellow. He couldn't learn good habits, but bad habits were mastered easily. This way of talking was truly just like Long Chen's. Zhuo Tianxiang's expression sank. At first, he hadn't even wanted to speak to Long Chen, because that was an insult to his status. He was trying to force Li Tianxian to come out, but before he could, he almost exploded because of Guo Ran. "Little brat, did your family elders never teach you manners?" Suddenly, one of the Life Star experts charged forward, appearing in front of Long Chen, a hand reaching for his throat. Just being forced to come in here like this had infuriated them, but then seeing Long Chen sitting high above them and looking down on them, their fury blazed. They were Life Star experts, possessing grand statuses. But Long Chen dared to play with them? Of course the Life Star experts were infuriated. So one of them lost control and immediately attacked. He would capture Long Chen to win back his lost face. At the same time as he charged forward, he unleashed his domain, making it so Long Chen and the others couldn't move. But before his hand could reach Long Chen's throat, Meng Qi formed a hand seal. 2 soul runes appeared in her eyes, and a spiritual arrow shot out at that person. The Life Star expert was extremely surprised. He hadn't expected a weak little woman like Meng Qi to be able to unleash an attack within his domain. But with a cold snort, he didn't dodge. Instead, an image of a small person appeared on his forehead. That was his Yuan spirit. Meng Qi's attack struck his Yuan spirit and shattered, but the Life Star expert's expression completely changed. Pain racked his soul, as if millions of needles were stabbing him. His mind became blank for an instant. He hastily circulated the power of his Yuan spirit to resist. Meng Qi's attack had contained a special soul-piercing effect, but in the end, he was a Life Star expert with a powerful Yuan spirit. If her attack had landed on a soul transformation expert, then with her current cultivation base, that soul transformation expert would be racked with pain for at least a breath's time. But against a Life Star expert, her power was still clearly lacking. The effect only lasted for the blink of an eye. The Life Star expert immediately recovered his consciousness. But in that time, he noticed a cyan brick growing larger and larger in front of him. Then, it solidly collided with his face. His nose broke and fresh blood splattered. He flew back with a pained groan. Everyone was startled. First, they were startled by Meng Qi's power. Her spiritual strength was so powerful that even a Life Star expert was affected. But then when they looked at the Life Star expert again, they were once more shocked. At this time, his face had completely deformed. His nose was gone, and there was a deep brick imprint in his face. Blood continued to pour out. It was impossible to recognize his original face any longer. "Boss, your aim was a bit off. In terms of up and down, it's still good, but the left and right don't match," critiqued Guo Ran. "Zhuo Tianxiang sounds like add crap to the table. Shit sounds like death. This is like the 5th time he's made this pun in response to this." Guo Ran, how dare you? With boss's experience and technique, how could he possibly miss? Look carefully. His face was clearly never symmetrical, retorted Gu Yang. Is that so? Now that you say it, it really is true. Boss, I was wrong, apologized Guo Ran. That's enough. Zhuo Tianxiang roared furiously. He backed his voice with the power of his cultivation base, making it so the Dragonblood warriors couldn't stand steady. Their expressions changed. This Zhuo Tianxiang was truly powerful. Li Tianxian, what are you intending? You sent a few disciples as a shield. Roared Zhuo Tianxiang. The lives of a few disciples won't be able to satisfy our anger. Today we'll raise the Xintiandao sect to the ground. Just at this moment, a large group of people walked in, blazing with killing intent. As soon as they arrived, the temperature dropped. The ancient races. These people were experts from the ancient races. Hundreds of them had come. Their blazing killing intent showed that they had come to kill. Adding on what they had just said, it was clear. Li Tianxian had completely infuriated them, causing them to lose face. They needed to win that back. Raise my Xintiandao sect to the ground? Do a bunch of hybrids made from humans and beasts have that kind of power? Sneered Long Chen. Long Chen detested the ancient races the most. They were an inferior race. Now he had learned the truth about them. They were actually just some failed products. At that time, the human race had been extremely powerful. Back then, when the human race and Shen beast race had decided to intermingle, it had just been a kind of experiment. The ancient races were the result of lower-ranking Shen beasts mating with the human race. The true pure-blooded Shen beasts who intermingled with the human race would have children that looked like regular people. They wouldn't be like these ancient race people with clear signs that they were half beast, half human. The children born from the true human race experts and pure-blooded Shen beasts had the body of humans but the spirit blood of Shen beasts. The constitution of the human race allowed them to get closer to the heavenly Taos, while the Shen beasts' blood gave them powerful physical bodies. Each one of those children had terrifying talent. But now, the current ancient races were nothing more than failed experiments. They were abandoned. Even the Shen beasts called them half-breeds. That wasn't cursing them, but referring to how the energy within their bodies was too muddled. They were no longer pure. As for the ancient races, in order to maintain their pitiful dignity, they sucked up to the Shen beasts, refusing to recognize that the human race was their ancestor. They continuously bullied the human race, wishing them to all die to wash away their own history. Long Chen looked down on them the most. Long Chen's words shocked the Life Star experts. Did he not want his life? Long Chen, your mouth's tough. Today, let's see whether your Shen Tian Dao sect can see tomorrow's sun. What startled people was that these ancient race experts didn't attack. Despite clearly wanting to kill Long Chen, they simply stood there. Old half-breeds, let's see then, said Long Chen indifferently. He knew exactly what the ancient races were doing. They weren't fools. They knew that this matter wouldn't be so simple. There was very likely going to be a bloody battle, and they didn't want to take the lead for fear of taking losses. That made Long Chen look down on them even more. The old man's words were entirely correct. The ancient races were just a pack of idiots who bullied the weak and cowered from the strong. Their viciousness was just an act for others to see. At a life-and-death juncture, they were just cowards. It's already so tense here even though we've just arrived. It seems there will be a good show to watch today. Suddenly, another group of hundreds of people appeared. This group contained various people. There were men and women, young and old. There were dozens of young disciples amongst them. But these young disciples' power shocked everyone. They were all rank 8 celestials. There was one lanky man with a mole on his chin who had practically solidified heavenly Tao energy circulating around him. It seemed he was a terrifying rank 9 celestial. People from the ancient family alliance. Someone let out a startled cry. It was unexpected that they would also come today. But what did they intend to do by bringing over so many disciples? To watch the fun? That was too much, wasn't it? Everyone, don't misunderstand. We were only passing by and were drawn over. We are leading our disciples to chase down a traitorous ancient family. It just so happens that this traitor has a bit of a relationship with Long Chen. So hearing the news of Long Chen, we decided to come and take a look. We definitely won't interfere with your matter. One of the elders of the ancient family alliance explained with a smile. He sharply saw Zhuo Tianxiang and the ancient race experts' frowns. Hearing that they came from the ancient family alliance, Long Chen was startled. In the eastern wasteland, he had encountered the ancient family alliance twice. The first time was after the Mo family had fled. The ancient family alliance's people had come to ask him a few questions. The second time was after the battle of the immemorial path. When he had been annihilating the remote heaven gang, the ancient family alliance had also appeared. At that time, the ancient races and Pill Valley's experts had also come out, using the excuse that he had killed too many people in the immemorial path. They said that they had come to determine justice for everyone, but they had actually just come for his secrets. Then Feng Xinglie and Ling Yunzi had come and resolved that crisis. After he came to the Central Plains, Long Chen hadn't heard anything from the ancient family alliance again. For them to appear again and mention a traitor who had a relationship with him, Long Chen immediately thought of a bow-wielding person wearing a hat to cover his face. That person who still had a bit of a baby fat, often liked to act mysterious and pose. It seems that Mo Nian's not doing too bad himself. Long Chen smiled faintly. They were truly brothers in hardship. Seeing this mass of troops, it seemed Mo Nian was also being hunted down, and not on a small scale. They were truly fated to be brothers. You know Mo Nian? If you know where he is, it would be best if you told us right now. Long Chen had only just spoken when one of the young disciples opened his mouth. That disciple looked to be in his early 20s. His words were irritatingly arrogant, but he was already a rank 8 celestial at the second heaven stage of Jade Core. He truly had the qualifications to be arrogant. I know him. But why should I tell you? Are you my son? Said Long Chen disdainfully. This brat really was an idiot. Long Chen wasn't afraid even when facing this many experts, so did he think threatening him with his little bit of power would work? Little brat, you dare to take advantage of me? Suddenly, before anyone else could speak, a woman who appeared to be in her 30s angrily cursed Long Chen. Long Chen's expression became odd. It seemed that this woman was that fellow's mother, or she wouldn't say he was taking advantage of her. This truly was a bit awkward. Long Chen didn't quite know what to say. He had just randomly said something, but he had provoked this woman. How did he take advantage of you? With my boss's handsomeness and talent, where else could you find such a man? Him being your son's father is your blessing as a mother. Don't quibble after getting such an advantage. Seeing that Long Chen was speechless, Guo Ran hastily covered for him. As a result, he really did well. Now Long Chen was even more embarrassed. He had an urge to kick this brat. He had definitely done this on purpose. Bastard, die! The young man roared and wings appeared on his back. The aura of a rank 8 celestial erupted, and he transformed into a ray of light that shot at Long Chen. Scram! You don't have the qualifications to get close to my boss. Gu Yang suddenly smashed his spear out. The man snorted and took out a sword. Boom! With an explosive sound, both Gu Yang and the young man were knocked into the distance by the other's power. Gu Yang's heart shook. This man's control of heavenly Tao energy was extremely great. He had felt some strange energy from the man's sword pushing him back, causing him to be at a disadvantage. He was actually capable of using such a queer technique with his thin sword against a heavy spear. That showed just how great his combat experience was as well. It was no wonder he was so arrogant. This kind of power was truly great. Gu Yang was startled, but the young man was also stunned. The power of his sword was to absorb his opponent's power and attack back with it. But Gu Yang's power was too condensed for him to absorb much of it. As a result, things went out of his expectations and they were at a draw. Long Chen was also extremely shocked. This many powerful experts were hunting Mo Nian? He suddenly thought of something, and a disdainful expression appeared on his face. He said, "You should give up. With just your little bit of ability, you wouldn't even be able to block 3 attacks from Mo Nian. Why bother sending yourself to your death?" So what if Mo Nian can cut down consecutive soul transformation experts? His cultivation base still hasn't broken through the Jade Core realm, so I can easily kill him. Do you dare let me have a fair fight against him? Sneered the man, trying to provoke Long Chen. Long Chen immediately feigned anger, roaring, "What nonsense! Mo Nian hasn't broken through to Jade Core? How long do you think it's been? Do you think his cultivation base will never increase? Foolish. You're the one who's foolish. Just a month ago, Mo Nian was only Fonga, don't take his bait. He doesn't know anything about Mo Nian's current situation, and he's just trying to get you to tell him," said his mother, cutting him off. Long Chen smiled. Not bad, not bad. He hadn't expected to learn news about Mo Nian here. Although he wasn't able to get much out of them, it was enough. To be able to kill soul transformation experts in the Foundation Forging realm, he could truly be described as a monster. No wonder the ancient family alliance would send so many people to hunt him down. Based on this, they were trying to find Mo Nian and have their disciples beat him. It seemed they were treating it as a hunt. Long Chen wasn't clear on the enmity between Mo Nian and the ancient family alliance, but he wasn't worried about him. That little brat was so slippery, nothing could happen to him. Now that so many esteemed guests have come, don't you think it's rude if you don't show up, Li Tianxian? Just at this moment, a group of 10 people walked into the Shantian Plaza. The speaker was an icy-faced elder. These 10 people were wearing light blue robes. The front of their robes had a large immortal character embroidered onto them, Alliance. Around this character was a dark blue circle, and it represented the Martial Heaven Sea Ring. This was the sign of the Martial Heaven Alliance. These people were all life star experts, and their robes were not the same as the Martial Heaven Alliance's people that had appeared at the Eastern Sea. Their statuses were clearly even higher. The leader was an icy-faced elder with electric eyes. He gave off immense pressure. His chin was a bit long, and he gave off a very unfriendly feeling. It's not that I, Li Tianxian, am putting on airs, but that there are many people who aren't qualified for me to personally receive them. The Martial Heaven Alliance is naturally an exception. Li Tianxian suddenly materialized in front of this group of experts. Behind him were all the higher-ups of the Shantian Dao sect, the experts above foundation forging. Li Tianxian might be able to ignore the people from Pill Valley, the Ancient Races, and the Ancient Family Alliance, but he had to treat the Martial Heaven Alliance with sincerity. After all, the Shantian Dao sect was under the administration of the Martial Heaven Alliance. The Martial Heaven Alliance was the sum of the Righteous Path's powers. It administered the entire Righteous Path, and its goal was to point the blades of the Righteous Path toward the corrupt path. The Martial Heaven Alliance was where all the wealth of the Righteous Path was concentrated. Each year, each righteous sect would send some of their resources to the Martial Heaven Alliance as a tax. Those resources were used for the daily costs of the Martial Heaven Alliance and their reward system. Anyone who had achieved merit in the battles against the corrupt path could apply for a reward from the Martial Heaven Alliance. Once the Martial Heaven Alliance investigated and collected proof, if the circumstances were verified, they would give out rewards in accordance with how much damage a person or sect had done to the corrupt path. The possible rewards and criteria for them were very explicit. In the past, the Martial Heaven Alliance had always been fair, just, and open with their actions. Their conduct had won all the Righteous Path's trust and support. They had been the most solid support of the Righteous Path. But in the past few years, a few problems had gradually appeared in the Martial Heaven Alliance, causing some friction between it and the righteous sections. Previously, the Martial Heaven Alliance had only been in charge of overseeing the overall battle strategy against the corrupt path. But recently, they had slowly started to interfere in the competition between sects, causing quite a bit of dissatisfaction amongst the smaller sections. After all, it was unavoidable to have some conflicts between sections. That was very normal. But if a third party decided to interfere, the flavor changed. For example, if two brothers fought, no matter how they fought, they were still brothers. Once their fight was over, they would remain brothers. But when two brothers fought, and an outsider came and was biased to one side, perhaps even helping that side defeat the other, the conflict would immediately escalate. They would become enemies. There were now quite a few sects that had been harmed heavily because of the Martial Heaven Alliance's meddling. That was what caused the righteous sects to accuse the Martial Heaven Alliance of misconduct and begin to refuse to cooperate with them. Seeing how much fury they had incited, the Martial Heaven Alliance had stopped interfering with the sections. It could count as lowering their heads. But it seemed that after lowering their heads, the Martial Heaven Alliance also became dissatisfied with the righteous sections. They felt like their good intentions had been spat on, and they began to entirely stop caring about the righteous sections. In the past few years, they had even lost their original initiative in the fight against the corrupt path. Now, they were only fulfilling their basic mission mechanically. They simply handed out the rewards. Other than major events, they wouldn't appear anymore. As for this time, the Shantian Dao sect's fight at Devil Spirit Mountain had shaken the Central Plains. Other than requiring a huge amount of resources as a reward, they had also killed experts from Pill Valley and the Ancient Races. The Martial Heaven Alliance had no choice but to appear. After all, the Shantian Dao sect was one of their members. Considering how this matter involved Pill Valley and the Ancient Races, huge waves could erupt from this. So they had come to investigate. The Martial Heaven Alliance's position in the righteous path was unshakable. Even Pill Valley and the ancient races wouldn't want to offend them. Offending the Martial Heaven Alliance was equivalent to offending the entire righteous path, so the consequences would be heavy. With someone from the Martial Heaven Alliance appearing, Li Tianxian had no choice but to personally appear. More and more experts were appearing in the Xintian Plaza, and this matter was growing even more complicated. Seeing the people from the Martial Heaven Alliance, the ancient race's experts' expressions changed slightly. For the Martial Heaven Alliance to appear here, it seemed that they had come to smooth things over. Turning something big into something small and then waving off that small thing was their specialty. The ancient races had come prepared to destroy the Xintian Dao sect, but with the Martial Heaven Alliance's people here, it seemed that wouldn't be possible. Seeing Li Tianxian appear, the expression of the Martial Heaven Alliance's elders softened slightly. After all, this was giving face to the Martial Heaven Alliance. The elder nodded. Turning to the people from Pill Valley, the ancient races and the ancient family alliance, he said, I am Deng Tsang, the vice-regional master of the Eastern Xian region's alliance. The Eastern Xian region, he mentioned, referred to the eastern region of the Central Plains. The Central Plains were so large that they were split into 5 regions: north, south, east, west, and the Central region. Looking up from the sky, the 5 regions of the Central Plains were like a copper coin. At the middle was a square, which was the Central Xian region. The rest was evenly divided into 4 regions, while the Xintian Dao sect was within the eastern region. Deng Tsang continued, I came specifically for the matter of the Xintian Dao sect. Yes, the Xintian Dao sect truly has some fault in this matter. Long Chen frowned. What was this old man doing? If the first thing he did was declare them guilty, how was he supposed to fix it? He stealthily glanced at Li Tianxian, only to see the latter give him a special look. Long Chen instantly understood. I'm sorry, but Vice-Regional Master Deng, my Xintian Dao sect is unable to accept that we did anything wrong, interrupted Long Chen. The other experts were stunned that Long Chen would be so brazen. This Vice-Regional Master Deng Tsang had clearly come to help him, but why was he being this rude? Long Chen, don't be rude. Apologize to Vice-Regional Master Deng Tsang, shouted Li Tianxian immediately. Long Chen shook his head. Xin Master, I'm sorry. Disciple simply has a temper. Right is right and wrong is wrong. As for manners, that's for later. The most important thing is that our Xintian Dao sect did nothing wrong, so my apologies Vice-Regional Master Deng Tsang. I had no choice but to interrupt you. Long Chen and Li Tianxuan's cooperation was flawless, not allowing Deng Tsang to have a way to vent his fury. If he expressed his anger now, it would seem like he wasn't magnanimous. What nonsense! Are you saying that it's right for you to kill others? Shouted one of the Life Star experts standing behind Zhuo Tianxiang. Is it really fun to help a dog eat shit? Sneered Long Chen. This bootlicking ability was too low level. It was nauseating. Long Chen, don't be rude, chided Li Tianxian. My apologies, Xian Master. I'm unable to be polite to those who eat shit all day and then spout that shit to others, said Long Chen helplessly. Brat, you must want to die, raged that Life Star expert. Old bastard, in another 3 years, my boss will be able to kill you like killing a chicken. Do you want to try offending him some more? Guoran finally couldn't bear it anymore and cursed the Life Star expert. The rest of the Dragonblood Legion was also infuriated. It was clearly this group of guests that had established a heaven-encompassing net to hunt down Long Chen. Could it be that others were supposed to just be killed obediently without counterattacking? Long Chen and Guoran's arrogance immediately infuriated all the experts. Just as they were about to start cursing them, another group of people arrived. The youngsters these days are truly good. They have guts and intelligence and bravery in spades. It wasn't a waste for me to come such a long way to see today's heroes. Everyone was startled and hastily looked back. They saw a group of over 10 people slowly walking into the Xintian Plaza. The person at the front looked like a kind-hearted elder in his 50s. His medium build was a bit pudgy. He didn't look like a cultivator but an elderly shopkeeper instead. that magnanimous smile was something that put others at ease. The group behind him was wearing luxurious robes and had graceful airs. Amongst them, a young man gave Long Chen a thumbs up. Long Chen immediately felt like flowers were blooming in his heart. He hadn't expected them to come at this time. Now it was going to be lively. The Huayun sect. Quite a few people's expressions changed. Pill Valley's law enforcer, Zhuo Tianxiang, immediately became gloomy. They had always been mortal enemies. Pill Valley had almost monopolized the medicinal pill market, while Huayun sect had almost monopolized the entire business sector. Both sides were behemoths with unimaginable wealth. Almost all the righteous path's medicinal pills were obtained from Pill Valley. But the rest of their resources came from the Huayun sect. Pill Valley controlled the fate of the medicinal pills in this world, while the Huayun sect controlled the fate of the other resources. No sect could afford to offend either of them. But now, Pill Valley had come here first, and the Huayun sect's experts had come later. The significance behind this was all too clear, causing these experts' expressions to change. If they only sucked up to Pill Valley, they would offend the Huayun sect. Their business routes would essentially be severed, and they would be unable to buy or sell their resources. In that case, they would be doomed. The entire Martial Heaven Continent's business network was controlled by the Huayun sect. Losing their support would require you to create your own trading channels, but the rest of the marketplace was in the Huayun sect's hands, and without any connections, you would go cold and hungry. The Huayun sect was always low-key and paid great attention to their reputation. Furthermore, the Huayun sect's disciples were all followers of the wealth god. They conducted their business fairly with all parties, and their reputation was undoubtable. But now, the Huayun sect and Pill Valley were fighting, dumbfounding the people that had come to suck up to Pill Valley. Now there were two sides to suck up to, but sucking up to one would cause you to lose the other, and losing either one would spell doom for them. They panicked, not knowing what to do. Even Dang Tsung found this surprising. He had never imagined that the Huayun sect would send people at this time. This didn't match their low-key style. Yu Qingshan, what do you think you're doing? Finally, Zhuo Tianxiang opened his mouth. For Zhuo Tianxiang to be able to call out that elder's name, the two were clearly familiar with each other. But that tone of his was not the one used when greeting an old friend. Hee, what could I possibly be intending? As the shopkeeper of the Eastern Xian region, I work myself to death every day. I simply finally had some time to go out for a stroll and relax, when I suddenly noticed that this place was very lively, so I came to take a look. Yu Qingshan laughed, still as magnanimous as ever, as if he would never get angry in his life. Within the Huayun sect, there were many different posts. But because they were so devout to their wealth god, even their appellations were business titles. It wasn't quite the same style as the rest of the cultivation world. Pill Valley's people would often curse the Huayun sect for being nothing more than a group or loathsome peddlers, beggars who only cared about profit. But the Huayun sect never cursed back at Pill Valley, nor would they do anything aggressive. That kind of self-restraint was admirable. Despite both parties controlling the lifeblood of the cultivation world, the Huayun sect was always low-key, and was never overbearing like Pill Valley. But if people thought that the Huayun sect was easy to bully because of that, they would have made a huge mistake. The Huayun sect's power was something no one knew. But considering that even Pill Valley was always helpless to do anything to them, there were still some clues. You don't need to be so nervous. My Huayun sect believes that amiability makes a person rich. But I heard that Pill Valley has been very unbridled with this matter. My Huayun sect has always been low-key, and so I was thinking of learning a few pointers from you. Yu Qingshan smiled. The righteous expert's hearts shook. Yu Qingshan's words might seem courteous on the surface, but they contained a hidden sharpness. What exactly did he mean by the Huayun sect had always been low-key, but now wanted to learn a few pointers from Pill Valley? Was that to say that they were about to start attacking Pill Valley? This was a warning to all of them. Oof, my Pill Valley has the power and foundation to be arrogant. Not just anyone can learn this ability, sneered Zhuo Tianxiang. He was clearly cursing the Huayun sect for being a bunch of country bumpkins, that their foundation was a far cry from pill valleys. You can't put it like that. No matter what, you should always try things out at least once before giving up. Otherwise, you'll start doubting your own abilities. So trying something out isn't a bad thing, laughed Yu Qingshan. By supporting the Xiantian Dao sect, are you prepared to go against my Pill Valley, the ancient races, and the entire righteous path? Demanded Zhuo Tianxiang. Oh, how worthy of Pill Valley! This arrogance was truly something worthy of me coming to learn. To be able to make me the enemy of the world with just a sentence, amazing, truly amazing. Yu Qingshan raised his thumb at Zhuo Tianxiang. But everyone could tell he was mocking him. My Huayan sect is a business, so we naturally wouldn't dare to offend so many people. Otherwise, we might starve to death. All I came to do was to learn your techniques. You can act however you want to act, and we'll just watch without saying anything. Laughed Yu Qingshan. So, youngster Longchen, can you help find me a seat and some refreshments? I'm an old man, and your Xiantian Dao sect's staircase is too long. I'm so tired I almost collapsed halfway. Yu Qingshan turned to Long Chen. Long Chen was delighted. Yu Qingshan had already expressed his attitude clearly. He had come to help Long Chen suppress these people, and at least one of his main goals was to go against Pill Valley. By sitting on his side, anyone who wasn't blind or an idiot could tell the Huayan sect's attitude. Old friend Qingshan, I invited you multiple times to come but you refused to visit. It seems Long Chen's face is even greater than mine as the Xiantian Dao sect's sect master. Li Tianxian bitterly smiled. It had to be known that Yu Qingshan was in charge of the Huayan sect within the eastern Xian region. His word was law in this region. In truth, Li Tianxian only knew of him and hadn't had any past relationship with him. In the past, the Xiantian Dao sect's business was also handled by others in the Huayan sect. A declined sect like the Xiantian Dao sect wasn't qualified to disturb a figure on his level. One reason for Li Tianxuan's bitter smile was to raise Long Chen's status, while the other was to express his helplessness. Xian Master Li, please forgive this old man. My body is old. Thanks to the blessing of the wealth god, my own wealth has been growing to the point that just going out for a stroll is too much of a waste. I can't bear to lose that profit. Yu Qingshan patted his own plump belly with a laugh. At this time, Long Chen offered his own seat to Yu Qingshan, but Yu Qingshan refused. He sat down to the side, not wanting to overwhelm the voice of the host. Long Chen's position was the sect master's position. Even Li Tianxian and the others were standing behind him, so he was the leading role. Yu Qingshan naturally saw that Li Tianxian was supporting Long Chen. Clearly, Li Tianxian had pushed Long Chen into the position of the future Xian master. Long Chen's status and position would never be the same again. He was no longer just a talented disciple. Li Tianxuan's actions today were equivalent to telling the world that Long Chen was the successor of the Xiantian Dao sect, and anyone who dared to touch him would have to face the entire Xiantian Dao sect's rage. Good job, Long Chen. Your brother supports you. Zheng Wenlong, who was behind Yu Qingshan, winked at him. Long Chen nodded, remembering this favor. Zheng Wenlong had truly helped him out this time. With the Huayan sect supporting him, the pressure on him lessened a great deal. The arrival of the Huayan sect's experts threw Pill Valley's original scheme into chaos. Even the Martial Heaven Alliance's people didn't know what to do. Yu Qingshan was simply sitting by Long Chen's side. Those people doing their best to spout dog's hit for Pill Valley all shut their mouths, not daring to speak. In truth, all of us have only come to the Xiantian Dao sect for the sake of justice. Since we've all come, it's time for us to discuss what happened. If there are any misunderstandings, we can resolve them right now. With so many distinguished figures of the martial path, we can definitely find a way to carry out justice for everyone. At this time, the Martial Heaven Alliance's Dang Tsong thickened his face and started the conversation. After all, the Xiantian Dao sect was a member of the Martial Heaven Alliance, and they had to stand up for them. However, his words were no longer as harsh as before. At the very least, he didn't start off by calling the Xiantian Dao sect the villains. But his words were still implying that the Xiantian Dao sect was the one at fault, Or he wouldn't say that their goal was to find justice for all parties. Long Chen smiled coldly. He could tell that this Deng Tsang was no good. He was fundamentally not speaking up for the Xiantian Dao sect. He was definitely working for someone else. Although Long Chen didn't know why Deng Tsang would be acting like this, Long Chen was confident that if he allowed Deng Tsang to continue taking the lead, the situation would turn more and more unfavorable for the Xiantian Dao sect. That's right, with old man Yu here, I trust that many people will need to give an explanation to my Xiantian Dao sect, agreed Long Chen. But his agreement was clearly different from Deng Tsang's intent. His meaning was the opposite. Bastard, your Xiantian Dao sect killed so many people, and were the ones supposed to give you an explanation? Li Tianxian intentionally used a divine item to kill so many Life Star experts from Pill Valley and the ancient races. He was even more vicious than the corrupt path. But you still have the face to demand an explanation? For you to be so shameless, are you not afraid of embarrassing your ancestors? For my heaven-suppressing magic sect to be lumped in the same name as your Xiantian Dao sect is our greatest humiliation, cursed an elder at Long Chen and Li Tianxian. This elder was the sect leader of the heaven-suppressing magic sect, Qi Yunao. In terms of seniority, he was even a level higher than Li Tianxian. That's right, the Xiantian Dao sect definitely did it intentionally. This is the sign you want to cause chaos for the rest of the land. Today, the Xiantian Dao sect must give the righteous path an explanation. Due to the seniors from the Huayun sect coming, we won't ask for too much. As long as the Xiantian Dao sect is immediately disbanded and Long Chen is executed, this matter can be resolved. Immediately after Qi Yunao, other experts from the righteous path began to roar with righteous indignation. They were all once sects that had had relationships with the Xiantian Dao sect. Although they were intimidated by the Huayan sect, they were more worried about the Xiantian Dao sect managing to escape this crisis unscathed. If the Xiantian Dao sect really rose, it would be a nightmare for them. That was why, with Qi Yunao being the first, they also stood out to make the choice between the Huayan sect and Pill Valley. Since they were already enemies of the Xiantian Dao sect, they had to choose to stand by Pill Valley. Long Chen stood and began slowly walking toward Qi Yunao. The roars gradually calmed down as everyone stared at him. You want to argue with me? Today, no matter how you try to twist it, your lies won't have the slightest use. A wrong is a wrong, and forcibly twisting logic is meaningless, sneered Qi Yunao. Pow! But what shocked everyone was that Long Chen didn't say anything. He had no intent of quibbling. He directly extended a hand and slapped Qi Yunao's face. You shameless old thing, I came to slap you. Who would waste words with someone like you? Everyone was filled with disbelief. Long Chen's slap had flowed naturally without the slightest flaws. According to reason, as soon as he attacked, an expert would instinctively react. But it was only after Long Chen's slap had struck Qi Yunao's face that everyone reacted. It was like time had frozen until his slap landed. Just having witnessed it made them feel like there were boundless mysteries behind it. A natural Dao. To be able to refine a face slap to such a level, he can be rated as unrivaled beneath the heavens. Even Yu Qingshan was surprised and he shot up, staring with shock. This was his first time seeing Long Chen's divine face-slapping art. As for Qi Yunao, he was slapped into the distance. One of the Life Star experts had to catch him. The heaven-suppressing magic sect's cultivators had weak bodies, and Qi Yunao was no exception. Long Chen's slap had shattered half his face. Blood was pouring out. Everyone was deathly silent. That slapping sound still hung in the air. Many of them were simply dumbfounded. Not all of them were able to tell just how profound that slap had been. They were unable to figure out why Qi Yunao hadn't dodged. Die! Qi Yunao's face twisted, and with a furious roar, a golden runic hand appeared and slammed toward Long Chen. Just as Qi Yunao had unleashed his attack, he realized that Long Chen had long since vanished from where he had been. Long Chen was already back in his seat, causing his attack to miss. That slap was your lesson for blindly babbling. In the future, you should think about the consequences before you randomly fart. Don't you know, Doing so will increase your chances of getting slapped? Lectured Long Chen from his seat. In truth, Long Chen was delighted to have actually pulled off this slap. When walking over, he had intentionally stared at Chi Yuneo while looking like he was in the midst of formulating an argument. Chi Yuneo had actually fallen for it. This slap had been truly satisfying. In front of this many people, he had slapped a life star expert. He had never managed to pull off such an amazing posing moment before. The most important things were the details. From the moment he slapped him and returned, he had looked absolutely tranquil and natural, as if he was completely used to this. That was what caused such a stunning result. Guarant's eyes were green, and stars seemed to be shining in his eyes. If he had been the one to do this slap, he might have already fainted from ecstasy. Bastard Long Chen, if I don't kill you, I swear I'm not human. Chi Yuneo almost went insane. He was the leader of the heaven-suppressing magic sect, and his seniority was even greater than Li Tianxian. But he had been slapped in the face by a tiny little foundation-forging disciple. This was even worse than killing him. A violet gold magical staff appeared in his hands. A terrifying pressure caused everyone's expressions to change. The violet gold soul-devouring staff. This violet gold soul-devouring staff was the heaven-suppressing magic sect's divine item. It was extremely famous. Everyone jumped upon seeing him take it out. Was he planning on immediately using a divine item? That staff had only just appeared when a golden light shot out of nowhere and struck the staff. Chi Yuneo's body violently trembled, and he was blown into the distance. This first attack was a warning. Next time, you will be directly destroyed. A voice suddenly resounded through heaven and earth, shocking everyone. It was like the voice of a god. It's the Shintian Tower. Wasn't it said that it was injured during the Dark Era and already broken down? Suddenly, a person cried out as he noticed that the golden light had come from the peak of the Shintian Tower. The Shintian Dao sect's #1 divine item was the Shintian Tower, while the reincarnation mirror was #2. After all, the Shintian Tower was left behind by the first-generation patriarch. But rumors said that it had been half-crippled in the Dark Era and could only maintain karmic luck. Wasn't it supposed to be unable to attack? The Shintian Tower had only unleashed a single insignificant attack, but it had blown Chi Yuneo away. Not even the violet gold soul-devouring staff had been able to resist. Everyone was stunned. They hadn't expected that the Shintian Tower was still fine. If it was truly fine, then considering that it was where all the Shintian Dao sect's karmic luck was gathered, the power it could unleash was unimaginable. Li Tianxian, you're so brazen to become enemies with the entire righteous path just because of the support of the Shintian Tower? Asked Zhuo Tianxiang coldly. Today, so many unexpected things had happened that he was growing uneasy. Long Chen sneered, you keep bringing up the entire righteous path. Who do you think you are to represent the righteous path? You're from Pill Valley, and Pill Valley is situated outside the cultivation world. Does the righteous path have anything to do with you? If you want to make up bullshit, there's no need to be so obvious with it. Even a child wouldn't be tricked by such idiotic lies. Is your head only full of crap? Zhuo Tianxiang was truly sinister to continuously attempt to incite friction between the Shintian Dao sect and the rest of the righteous path. Ah, well said. Pill Valley is just a group of shameless idiots. Suddenly, a heroic and domineering voice rang out. Who's there? Get out here. One of Pill Valley's life star experts flew into the air to see who was talking. Fuck your mother, do you think this is a place you can speak? Suddenly, Sword Chi soared into the air, splitting the sky. A terrifying will cause the world to quiver. This Sword Chi was incredibly domineering, capable of killing man or god. Everyone present was stunned by this Sword Chi. This sword wasn't even aimed at them, yet its pressure caused a stabbing pain in their souls. That Pill Valley expert standing in the air hastily formed hand seals, and a huge flame blade condensed in the air, meeting the Sword Chi. But shockingly, that flame blade was unable to bear a single blow from the Sword Chi. It instantly exploded, not even managing to slow it down. The Sword Chi then slashed through the Pill Valley expert, annihilating him. If anyone else is unconvinced, come out and fight. A group of people walked into the Xintian Plaza. The one at the front was Boss Bao, and the ones behind him were the other bosses of the heaven-splitting battle sect. Behind the 7 bosses were Bao Buping and Chang Hao. What delighted Long Chen was that the 7 bosses had all advanced to the Life Star realm. The space around them was constantly fluctuating as a result of them having just advanced and not being able to control their auras yet. As for Bao Buping and Chang Hao, they had advanced to the Jade Core realm. But their auras had already stabilized. The heaven-splitting battle sect. The 7 bosses' arrival elicited startled cries, and people involuntarily took a few steps back, terror appearing in their eyes. Within the righteous path, the sect that evoked the most fear was the heaven-splitting battle sect. That was because the heaven-splitting battle sect was full of suicidal madmen. There was no way to reason with them. They would start fighting all out with a single wrong word. Furthermore, they were all existences that were unrivaled in the same realm and incredibly domineering. Their killing power was frightening. Heaven-splitting battle sect, what do you think you're doing? Zhuo Tianxiang's expression sank. Are you blind? We came to kill. Having just advanced, our hands are itchy and we want to play around with a few people. It just so happens that there are many people here, and we can kill until we're satisfied. Do you have any opinion of that? Said Boss Bao disdainfully. Are you supporting Long Chen? Demanded Zhuo Tianxiang. That's why I said Pill Valley is just a pack of idiots. You obviously know already, so why ask? If we didn't come to support Long Chen, why would we have come so far? I really look down on your Pill Valley. You clearly want to control the world, yet you don't express it and just play your little schemes in the dark to make those spineless sects submit to you. Is there a point to this? If you want to become a king, do it openly. As for this pattern of slowly boiling a frog, do you really think others can't see through it? Sneered Boss Bao. Zhuo Tianxiang's expression changed and he shouted, Pay attention to your tone. Know that my Pill Valley status is transcendent. Do you think we care about your mundane world? Just shut up. You probably can't even believe your own words. You know what you've done, and others know what you've done. It's just that no one dares to provoke you by saying it. However, my heaven-splitting battle sect happens to be full of men who stand while pissing. If you don't like it, then let's fight. After finishing speaking, Boss Bao ignored Zhuo Tianxiang and walked over to Long Chen. Little fellow, we've come to support you. Act as you please. It would be best if there was a big battle in a bit, and we can kill until rivers of blood flow. Boss Bao patted Long Chen on the shoulder with an excited expression. That expression made other people's skin crawl. Madman, definitely a madman. That expression clearly showed that he wanted to kill everyone. When people came to support others in a dispute, their goal was always to mediate things to avoid a fight. But as for the heaven-splitting battle sect, it was like they were afraid others wouldn't fight without them coming. Scram! This isn't somewhere the likes of you can come. Boss Bao and the others had only just sat when a furious roar rang out from the distance. They saw several Life Star experts blocking a white-robed man. This man looked to be in his 30s. He was handsome, and his white robes were like snow. He had a single sword strapped to his back. He was graceful, seemingly untouched by dust. But his cultivation base was only at the soul transformation realm, so he was immediately noticed. Seeing that he was only at the soul transformation realm, they thought that he had come to watch the fun, so the closest people immediately moved to kick him out. Get out of my way. The white-robed man frowned slightly. Scram! The Life Star experts were infuriated, and one of them sent out a punch at the white-robed man. Suddenly, a cold light flashed. Before anyone could understand what was happening, that Life Star expert came to a sudden stop, and then his body slowly split apart. As his body split, the white-robed man walked through him. Sect leader! Long Chen was shocked to see this white-robed man. He was the original sect leader of the 108th monastery, Ling Yunzi. Ling Yunzi smiled and walked over to Long Chen, treating the Life Star experts around him as nothing. Die! Seeing Ling Yunzi look down on them, a murderous light appeared in the Life Star experts' eyes. 7 of them attacked at the same time. Ling Yunzi's mouth curled ever so slightly. His hand reached toward his back. The moment his sword came out of his sheath, light exploded, as bright as the sun. A terrifying destructive will shot out. 7 muffled bangs rang out. When the light faded, Ling Yunzi's hand was slowly letting go of his sword hilt. Li Tianxian, Yu Qingshan, Zhuo Tianxiang, and all the other experts' pupils shrank. They had been unable to track Ling Yunzi's sword. As for other people, they had been unable to even see him unsheath his sword. The sound of 7 bodies hitting the ground rang out. They no longer had the slightest life. Ling Yunzi continued onward, still treating the life star experts around him as nothing. Ling Yunzi slowly walked forward, each step perfectly being the same distance. Even the rhythm of his movements was the exact same. All the life star experts present found it hard to believe that a soul transformation expert could be so terrifying. He killed life star experts without using the slightest effort. Most terrifying of all, there weren't the slightest heavenly Tao fluctuations around him. He clearly wasn't even a celestial. I remember. He's the Heavenly Sword Gate's ghost sword, Ling Yunzi. He specializes in the Annihilation Sword Tao. Someone suddenly let out a startled cry as he finally recognized Ling Yunzi. As soon as Ling Yunzi's name was mentioned, all the life star experts' expressions changed. That fellow whose sword is said to shake ghosts and gods, a sword which can exterminate the heavens and slay divinities? I hear whenever he faces opponents, life and death is always decided in just one move. Countless whispers spread throughout the crowd as they looked at Ling Yunzi with reverence. The Heavenly Sword Gate only accepted sword cultivators, and so it had very few disciples. But each of them was a figure capable of shaking heaven and earth. In the past few years, a genius had appeared in the Heavenly Sword Gate. Despite having long since passed his golden age of cultivation, he still managed to soar like a shooting star, and was claimed to be a superhuman genius amongst sword cultivators. Although Ling Yunzi rarely left the Heavenly Sword Gate, his name was still very famous in the Central Plains. That was because when he had been over 100 years old, he had still only been at the Xiantian realm. For him to be able to suddenly rise at such a late stage in his life toppled the cultivation world's laws, so there were naturally many people who knew of his strange existence. At the same time as people were shocked, they found it curious how Long Chen knew Ling Yunzi and would even call him sect leader. In the Central Plains, very few people knew Ling Yunzi's past. I've long since stopped being your sect leader. If my gate master were to learn of it, he might think I am conspiring some plot. Ling Yunzi smiled. Ling Yunzi arrived in front of Long Chen. He saw that the youth from back then had matured. Although his general figure hadn't changed, there were more lines on his face. He had become more determined than ever. Ling Yunzi couldn't help but feel emotional. In my heart, you will always be the sect leader of the 108th monastery, said Long Chen. He was also emotional. Countless memories flooded back into their mind. Thinking of those things, they felt like they had happened a lifetime ago. Ling Yunzi, are you here to represent the Heavenly Sword Gate? Asked Zhuo Tianxiang uneasily. The Heavenly Sword Gate was a terrifying sect. They had very few people, but even Pill Valley didn't want to provoke them. That was because each person in the Heavenly Sword Gate was a terrifying sword cultivator with unimaginable power. Fortunately, the Heavenly Sword Gate's disciples were focused on cultivating the Sword Tao and never interfered in the matters of the mundane world. They didn't have any relationship with Pill Valley, and they also hadn't had any conflicts. However, Ling Yunzi's arrival worried him. My Heavenly Sword Gate's disciples don't set foot in the mundane world. I came here purely for personal reasons, and it has nothing to do with the Heavenly Sword Gate, so you can be at ease. Even if I die here, the Heavenly Sword Gate won't find any trouble for you. Long Chen and I have had past dealings, and if he is in trouble, I must help. If a battle starts, I'd ask you all not to have any misgivings about the Heavenly Sword Gate and fight as you please. I, Ling Yunzi, will also not have any misgivings about your statuses. We can have a happy slaughter without any worries. Ling Yunzi's words caused a chill to run down these people's spines. He was definitely a vicious character, No different from the madmen of the heaven-splitting battle sect. A happy slaughter? Without your life, what was there to be happy about? Is Zifeng still all right? Ling Yunzi asked Long Chen. Long Chen immediately understood that a big reason Ling Yunzi had come here was for Yu Zifeng. Although the two of them had never formally taken the title of disciple and master, that relationship was still there. If it hadn't been for Ling Yunzi's pointers, Yu Zifeng wouldn't have advanced at such a terrifying rate. He's fine for now. His soul is sealed in his sword and unable to return to his body. That's a bit troublesome and we aren't able to help, said Long Chen. But we can discuss anything else once this matter is over. Little fellow, you really are not bad. Your ability to cause trouble grows greater and greater over time. Ling Yunzi patted Long Chen on the shoulder. After that, Ling Yunzi exchanged polite greetings with Li Tianxian, Boss Bao, and the others. According to age, Ling Yunzi was the junior, so he used the etiquette of a junior when greeting them, embarrassing Li Tianxian and Boss Bao. You are Long Chen's elder, so we are brothers. Stop with the useless pleasantries, because we won't return them. Wouldn't you just be wasting your time? Grumbled Boss Bao. The heaven-splitting battle sects people disliked this kind of unnecessary and elaborate detail the most. On the other hand, Li Tianxian asked Ling Yunzi if he wanted to come and help oversee the Xiantiandao sect since he had once been a member of the sect. He wanted to entice Ling Yunzi back. But Ling Yunzi merely smiled without saying anything. That was equivalent to politely declining. He obviously had his own plans for his future. As the Huayun sect, the heaven-splitting battle sect, and Ling Yunzi arrived, this matter grew more and more complicated. Pill Valley's overbearing act was forcibly suppressed now, and their confidence was starting to flag. With the heaven-splitting battle sect's madman and Ling Yunzi here, the power difference had changed. The Xiantiandao sect was gaining more and more power. The Huayun sect was especially troublesome to deal with when it came to the situation. As for Li Tianxian, he seemed to be ignoring Pill Valley's people and was simply quietly conversing with Ling Yunzi, Yu Qingshan, Boss Bao, and the others. It was like everything before them had nothing to do with him. He had left everything to Long Chen. As for Long Chen, he was lightly tasting a bowl of fresh tea Meng Qi had given him. Behind him, Tang Wen'er was gently massaging his shoulders. Long Chen was so comfortable he was about to start snoring. That appearance of his infuriated Zhuo Tianxiang. In all his life, he had never seen anyone so arrogant. He was treating all of them as nothing but air. The eyes of the ancient family alliance's youngsters were burning with envy, almost spurting out flames. Meng Qi and Tang Wen'er were both beautiful women who looked like fairies that had descended into the mortal world, but they were actually being so gentle to Long Chen. This scene made them almost go insane. They were heaven-shaking geniuses, but they had never even seen such beautiful women like Meng Qi and Tang Wen'er. Although they also had a few beautiful women amongst them who could count as peak beauties found only once every 1,000 miles, they still didn't compare. Heavenly geniuses were all proud and arrogant figures. They felt that this world's beauties should belong to them alone. For them to see a foundation-forging disciple receive such a blessing made them clench their teeth. If looks could kill, Long Chen would have died 1,000 times over. Since everyone has come, let's discuss the problem of the Xiantiandao sect. Finally, the Martial Heaven Alliance's Dang Tsang broke the awkward atmosphere. But as soon as he spoke, a cold smile appeared on Long Chen's face. Just now, he had sensed a very concealed fluctuation. Without the sharp senses of the 9-star Hegemon body art, he wouldn't have sensed it. Just before Dang Tsang had spoken, Pill Valley's Zhuo Tianxiang had sent a spiritual message to him. According to reason, a concealed spiritual message between experts of their caliber could not be sensed. Even life-star experts like Li Tianxian wouldn't be able to sense it. But the 9-star Hegemon body art was extremely sensitive to malicious intent. And since he could sense it, that meant that these two were scheming against him, because that was the only reason the 9-star Hegemon body art would sense it. Now Long Chen knew why Dang Tsang was targeting the Xiantiandao sect and refused to speak up for them. It seemed he had one foot in a different camp. Sorry, my Xiantiandao sect doesn't have any problems. Let's discuss their problems instead. Long Chen didn't give Deng Tsong any chance to continue speaking. There was no way he would fart out something good, so he might as well not let him fart at all. Long Chen, do you even know what respect is? Do you think you're qualified to butt in here? Roared Deng Tsong, infuriated at being interrupted by Long Chen continuously. Boss Bao was immediately enraged and reached for his sword on his back. Li Tianxian was speechless. This kind of temper flared up a bit too quickly, wasn't it? He quickly stopped him. Don't be in such a rush. Long Chen can handle it. Li Tianxian bitterly smiled as he stopped the bosses. He knew that if he didn't stop them, these fellows would start killing now. I regret to inform you that it just so happens that I do have the qualifications. Right now, my word is the word of the Shintian Dao sect. If you want to resolve this problem, you'll have to listen to me. If you don't want to listen to me, then it's also very simple. There are two options. 1. Fuck off. 2. Fight. You can choose for yourself. Long Chen smiled coldly. He could already see that a portion of the people sucking up to Pill Valley had started to retreat as soon as the Huayan sect arrived. Clearly, having weighed the pros and cons, they had decided not to offend either party. Those people wouldn't be interfering if a battle started. At most, they would just shout from the sideline. And the arrival of the heaven-splitting battle sect and Ling Yunzi had shaken the confidence of another portion. They were afraid of the bosses as they were truly vicious figures. The slightest carelessness would cause these people to lose their lives. To suck up to Pill Valley, they would offend the Huayan sect and lose their lives. That wasn't worth it. So now the ones who had been shouting for a battle had silently disappeared. Only the ancient race experts still had sharp killing intent in their eyes. Both the Shintian Dao sect and the heaven-splitting battle sect were their mortal enemies. If they could be annihilated in one move, it would be for the best. To the ancient race experts, Pill Valley had given them a good opportunity. Not only could they kill their enemies and display their might, but the deaths of these people would be the responsibility of Pill Valley. The Martial Heaven Alliance wouldn't even be able to find trouble for them. Little brat, stop being so arrogant. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Today, the ancient races will raise your Shintian Dao sect to the ground. Roared the ancient race experts. They wanted to start fighting right now. Are the ancient races so amazing? Back in my day, I don't even know how many of you I killed. I never felt you to be so tough. Suddenly, a disdainful sneer came from the sky. A large figure appeared. He was like a fat, bloodthirsty butcher, icily staring at the ancient race experts. The fierce young butcher, Tu Qianshang. Countless people let out startled cries upon seeing that figure. The ancient race experts' expressions sank. In this world, the people who hated Tu Qianshang the most were the ancient races. When the ancient races had been hunting him down back then, he had killed a countless number of them, causing them to lose face. It was one of their most humiliating records in all of history. Now that Tu Qianshang arrived, he shocked everyone because he had actually advanced to the Life Star realm. It had to be known that after his brother had been killed and he had been hunted down by the ancient races, a heart devil had been planted within him. Even after cultivating for so many years in the Wine God Palace, he hadn't been able to resolve it. Even in that battle outside the Grand Xia ancient nation, Tu Qianshang had still been at the peak of the soul transformation realm. It had to be known that Tu Qianshang was a rank 9 celestial. In the soul transformation realm, he had cut down Life Star experts. Now that he had advanced to the Life Star realm, there might not be a single person here capable of stopping him. Not only did the ancient race experts' expressions sink, but even the expressions of Pill Valley's people became unsightly. The medicinal wine cooperation between Wine God Palace and Pill Valley had been forcibly ended by the Wine God Palace, and they had even expelled the Pill Valley from the Grand Xia, swearing to never cooperate with them ever again. Back then, that had shaken the Central Plains and caused Pill Valley to lose face. Although the Wine God Palace hadn't explicitly announced the reason why they were ending this cooperation, and Pill Valley had also done their best to conceal the truth, saying that it was just a conflict of techniques, anyone with brains could tell that it was Pill Valley that had done something contemptuous, which had caused the Wine God Palace to furiously expel them. The Wine God Palace's nature was extremely well known in the Central Plains. Their disciples were a bit sanctimonious and prideful, and being wine fanatics made their styles different from the cultivation world's norm. However, the character of their disciples was something everyone had to admire. Anyone who could sincerely go and give them a few pointers to their wine would receive a pleasant surprise. Not just anyone would be presented with a gift of wine, but as long as they came to the Wine God Palace, their disciples would treat them to their wine. Any cultivators that had had contact with the Wine God Palace felt great respect for those wine fanatics. So the character of the Wine God Palace's disciples was known to be worth gold, but in comparison, Pill Valley's reputation wasn't so good. It was just that their power was too great, and no one dared to say anything. Pill Valley's movements against the Shintian Dao sect had now not only caused their old enemy, the Huayan sect, to arrive, but even the Wine God Palace had come to interfere. This completely ruined their original plans. Long Chen, I've come to support you. Have you prepared the wine for me yet? Tu Qianshang didn't even look at the others and went directly to Long Chen. Don't tell me you came so far but didn't even bring any wine? Long Chen was delighted to see Tu Qianshang, but he put on a dissatisfied expression. You shameless fucker, I came so far and so fast to help you that I lost 10 pounds, but you want me to bring my own wine? I admire how you can be so shameless as to say such a thing, cursed Tu Qianshang. Long Chen understood Tu Qianshang far too well. Although he looked carefree, he was actually very sharp. The more courteous you were with him, the more he would feel like you weren't worth talking to. By not treating him as a big figure, he would feel like you didn't have any plots involving him. Tu Qianshang's temper was just as explosive as the boss's, but the difference was that in his eyes, there was no such thing as seniority. As long as you could get along with him, he wouldn't care about whether you were older or younger. Everyone he got along with was his brother. But others didn't know this. So seeing Long Chen speaking so brazenly to Tu Qianshang, and seeing Tu Qianshang act like that was normal, they found it inconceivable. Tu Qianshang was known as a vicious figure. Even after secluding himself in the Wine God Palace, his story still continued to be told in the cultivation world. The fierce young butcher. He was a textbook example of a vicious figure. Countless people used him as a target for themselves, and some even had statues of him to worship. Tu Qianshang, did you come to represent the Wine God Palace or yourself? Zhuo Tianxiang finally couldn't endure it any longer and interrupted the two of them from their cursing bout. I've come officially. The high priest sent me to testify on behalf of Long Chen. Of course, if anyone's neck is itchy, I can act personally and help them out if they want. I, Tu Qianshang, will definitely welcome any challenger. Countless people sucked in a cold gasp of air upon hearing the high priest's name. Even the Wine God Palace's high priest was supporting Long Chen? What are you testifying? Asked Zhuo Tianxiang. What am I testifying? Is there a need for me to even say it? Just ask Long Chen and you'll know, sneered Tu Qianshang. But inside, he grumbled, how am I supposed to know what I'm testifying? Tu Qianshang had only come due to the high priest's instructions. The high priest had said that there was no need for him to bother with anything. He just had to follow Long Chen's lead. Brother Qianshang, come here and sit. Don't waste time talking to them. In a bit, let's have a good drink. Boss Bao beckoned to Tu Qianshang. The bosses were like soul brothers with Tu Qianshang. It was just that they hadn't had a chance to meet before. As fellow hot-blooded men, they all admired Tu Qianshang's accomplishments back then, and they instantly felt like family. The heaven-splitting battle sect ignored ordinary people, but they warmly welcomed real men. All right, then once this matter's done, we'll drink. I'll let you taste some of my new wine. It's definitely strong enough, laughed Tu Qianshang. The 8 of them instantly became brothers. They wished for the people in front of them to hurry up and leave so that they could drink. The atmosphere became extremely awkward. Originally, these people's plan was to thunderously stomp the Shintian Dao sect to the ground. But before they could even start criticizing and denouncing them, experts appeared by Long Chen's side one by one, each more terrifying than the last. Now even Pill Valley was unable to control this matter. The ancient races were still full of killing intent, but it was no longer as intense as before. They no longer dared to say that they would destroy the Shen Dao sect today, because looking at the current situation, the chances of them succeeding were basically zero. With so many experts here now, it just so happens we can discuss what happened clearly. I'm sure everyone will be able to tell who is right and who is wrong. Deng Tsong helplessly opened his mouth. All he could do was thicken his face and press on. Due to Long Chen's continuous obstructions before, even his words were much more careful now. He no longer started off by declaring the Shen Dao sect was in the wrong. What is there to say? The Shen Dao sect killed so many experts of the ancient races. It was clearly intentional, backed by vicious motives. They have to give the ancient races an explanation, otherwise, sneered an ancient race expert. The ancient races didn't have that many misgivings about the Huayan sect since their resources were in their own hands. As for the Shen Dao sect, the heaven-splitting battle sect, and Tu Qianshang, they were all the ancient race's enemies. Naturally, the ancient race experts weren't afraid to offend them. Deng Tsong nodded. He looked to Li Tianxian only to see him had his eyes closed. He didn't say a word, nor did he express any opinion. Deng Tsong was infuriated inside. He had come to represent the Martial Heaven Alliance. His job was to mediate things, but Li Tianxuan's attitude irritated him. However, he couldn't express that anger, or it would be equivalent to joining Pill Valley's side to target the Shen Dao sect. In truth, that was precisely what he was doing, but he still had to act like he wasn't. Since Li Tianxian refused to do anything, Deng Tsong could only say, Long Chen, you're the leading role in this. How are you going to give the ancient races an explanation? Deng Tsong turned to Long Chen and almost exploded in fury. Long Chen had his head down and was snoring. Long Chen, wake up. Tang Wan'er laughed inside and pushed him gently. This fellow was truly evil, however, she had no choice but to cooperate with him. Is time up? Good, then I announce that everyone can scatter. Long Chen stood to leave. Bastard, can you not be serious? Do you think acting like a fool will allow you to slip away? You think everyone here is an idiot? Roared one of the sect leaders. He was the leader of a sect called Clear Wind Valley. In the past, this sect had had some relationship with the Shen Dao sect. When the Shen Dao sect was in its golden age, they had been nothing more than one of their subordinate powers. By holding the Shen Dao sect's leg, they received their protection, or they'd have long since been devoured by other powers. Later the Shen Dao sect had declined, and Clear Wind Valley had started to go against the Shen Dao sect, even mocking and sneering at them. In fact, the mines they had offered the Shen Dao sect back when they had been subservient to them had been forcibly snatched back. They were now enemies. Are you not idiots? If you aren't, then is there anyone in this world stupid enough to be an idiot? Fuck, you should count your blessings that I'm still at the Foundation Forging realm. If I was at the Life Star realm, not one of you would live to leave this mountain, sneered Long Chen as he took his seat again. For some reason, when that guy mentioned idiots, Long Chen became particularly angry. These people were truly idiots. It was a pity that his own power was still too low. Otherwise, he'd kill them all. These idiots from the righteous path would never be able to soar like the Shen Dao sect. As they fought amongst themselves, even in their own sect, they were all like unrivaled heroes. Yet, when they fought the corrupt path, they were like dogs, not even possessing the bravery to bark. All they could do was scheme and fight amongst themselves. Unable to rise themselves, they did their best to stop others. If they weren't idiots, what were they? Long Chen, don't worry. As long as you say the word, I'll help you cut down that idiot. Boss Bao's eyes immediately began to shine, and his hand was already touching the hilt of his sword. That person's expression immediately changed. He felt himself being locked down by an invisible aura. Boss Bao clearly wasn't joking. Long Chen, peace and harmony is to be prized. You should still reply to the ancient race's question, said Deng Tsong hastily when the atmosphere tensed. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.